James Blish, Star Trek. Who mourns for Adonai? As soon as the elevator door opened, everyone on the bridge stopped working. Kirk made a guess. Lieutenant Carolyn Palamas would be arriving soon with a report on the fragments of a marble-like substance they'd pulled from the dead planet in the Seacrops group. Yes, he was right. Carolyn handed him the report. "Thank you," he said, trying not to look into her shining gray-blue eyes. Perfect beauty, he thought, could be a heavy burden for a woman. The glances she involuntarily attracted immediately placed her in a special position. And he didn't want Carolyn Palamas to feel lonely. Her assets weren't limited to her luxurious golden hair and gray-blue eyes. She, as a new crew member, was well-versed in archaeology. Kirk was constantly afraid of offending her with his admiring glance. He said, "Take up the research on Pollux 4, Lieutenant. Dr. McCoy apparently decided to show concern for the girl." "Carolyn, you look tired," he noted. "I was writing a report all night," she replied. "A cup of coffee would perk you up," Scotty interjected. "Carolyn, perhaps you'd like to join me?" She smiled. "First, I need to remove the chemicals." When she left, Kirk asked, "Bones, why is he so upset about a cup of coffee?" "I'm in love," Scotty replied shortly, hurrying after the girl. McCoy frowned. "Yes, Jim, I didn't expect that from him." "Scotty's a great guy," Kirk remarked. "He thinks he's just the one for her, but she—" McCoy shook his head. "An analysis of our Venus's mental state suggests she's strongly inclined toward marriage and motherhood. Jim, she's a woman to the core. One day, she'll fall for it and be fired from the service. It would be a shame, Bones, if we lost her. She's a great specialist, but it's stupid to fight nature." Chekhov, whose workstation was next to the commander's chair, intervened in the conversation. "We're entering standard orbit around Pollux 4, sir." Pollux 4 had already appeared on the screen. It looked like Earth. Continents, seas, clouds. "Mr. Spock, what do we already know about this planet?" "That she's Class M, Captain," Spock replied, not looking up from his computer. Kirk glanced at the screen and saw the planet slowly rotating, moving closer. Spock said, "Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, sir. No life detected. Estimated age, 4 billion years. I don't think there's any point in landing on it. This planet is unremarkable." Kirk pressed the button. "Cartography department, get to work. Set the scanners to automatic mode." "Captain," Zulu shouted, "attention to scanner 12. Something formless and so transparent that the stars were visible through it suddenly appeared between them and the planet. This something grew rapidly. "Where?" McCoy fell silent. "Mr. Zulu," Chekhov asked, "am I hallucinating?" "I don't think so, except maybe both of us," Zulu replied. "Captain, that's a giant hand." Kirk remained silent. On the screen, the amorphous mass began to take shape, taking on the outlines of giant fingers, a palm, and a massive wrist that extended downwards and out of the observer's field of vision. "Mr. Spock, what do the instruments say?" Kirk's voice was muffled. "Is that really a hand?" "No, Captain. This is not living matter." "But then, it's an enlarged image." "Sir, this is a force field." "Full astern," Kirk ordered sharply. "Course 230, Mark 41. Meanwhile, the palm had already taken up the entire screen, the lines on it appearing like deep dents, and the enormous protrusions only vaguely resembling the unevenness of a human palm. The dents became more noticeable, and Chekhov exclaimed, "She's going to grab us now!" For the first time, Spock finally looked up from his computer and at the screen. "Captain, if this is a force field..." "Full speed astern," Kirk ordered. The light flickered. The ship shook. There was a screeching sound of metal. Everyone fell to the floor. Zulu, reaching for the panel cover, tried to push it back. "The ship is out of control. It's not moving." Scotty jumped out of the elevator, and Kirk, returning to his seat, turned to Uhura. "Lieutenant, report this to Starbase 12 immediately. Tell them that an unknown force has stopped the Enterprise." He turned to Zulu. "Mr. Zulu, try to rock the ship. Full speed ahead, then full speed astern." "Captain, we've received reports of damage," Uhura said. "The situation is under control. The ship suffered minor damage. Mr. Zulu, how are you?" "Now I'll try to move it sharply from its place, sir." The ship shook. "It's no use, Captain. We're stuck." Kirk glanced at the screen. The entire space was taken up by a palm. Stars shone through it. Kirk turned away. "Data, Mr. Spock, what do we know?" "The ship is completely surrounded by a force field. It resembles a normal one, but on a different wavelength. Despite its resemblance to a human hand, it is not living matter. It is a field." "Thank you, Mr. Spock." "Mr. Zulu, switch the forward cannon to propulsion." "Yes, sir." "Turn on." The ship shuddered. "It's no use, sir," said Zulu. "It looks like we have nothing to push away." Spock intervened. "Captain, I propose displaying the readings from the 12th scanner on the overview screen." "Do it, Mr. Spock." Now the palm slid aside, and in its place, the translucent features of a huge face began to emerge on the screen. A deathly silence reigned on the bridge of the Enterprise. Finally, the enormous face fully emerged, but it wasn't its size that struck Kirk. Never before had he seen such a beautiful male face, and there was no doubt that it belonged to a man. Crowned with a diadem of stars, the face shone with a classic beauty, timeless as the stars. Dark eyes stared straight at the ship. The voice that came from the screen was quite consistent with the speaker's appearance. "The eons have passed, and what was destined has come to pass. I greet you, my beloved children. Your home awaits you." Kirk shook his head, as if trying to clear away the low, all-pervasive sounds. He looked away from the screen and addressed Uhura. "Lieutenant, reply frequency." "It's been detected, sir. The channel is clear." He pulled the microphone toward him. "This is Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise. Please identify yourself." But his request remained unanswered. "You have left your fields and plains and set out in search of adventure," the voice continued. "We will remember the good old days together. We will drink the sacred wine. The flutes will play again in the forests. The long wait is over." The words sounded like a spell. Kirk asked, "I don't know who you are, but answer me. Was it you who stopped our ship?" "I simply told the wind to leave your sails." "Then tell him to come back," Kirk said. "Then we'll talk. It looks like you're going to keep your name a secret, but I'm warning you. We're capable of taking care of ourselves. Clear the ship." The lips formed an approving smile. "The old fire has not died out within you. How much you resemble your fathers. Agamemnon, Achilles, Hector, the Trojan." "To hell with history! Free the ship or I'll—" The smile disappeared. "You will submit to me. After all I have to do is clench my hand into a fist, like this." The ship shook like a rattle in the hands of an angry child. "Captain, the external pressure is increasing," Scotty shouted from his position. 800! It's still increasing!" "Mr. Scotty, do your best." "The pressure is critical, sir. 1,000! The ship won't withstand it." Kirk turned to the screen in fury. Okay, you win. Stop it. You've learned a good lesson. Remember it, the voice said. A dazzling smile appeared on his stern face. Captain, I invite you and your officers to my office. Everyone, except those with pointy ears. Kirk quickly noted to Spock. Don't pay any attention, Mr. Spock. We don't know who we're dealing with. Meanwhile, a voice demanded, Hurry, my children. May your hearts rejoice. Well, Bones, are you ready? Jim, do you think this is advisable? You don't want our ship to be crushed like a nut, do you? Kirk stood up and walked over to the first mate, who was sitting at the computer. Mr. Spock, you remain in charge. Try to determine the nature of the force holding us. Involve all scientific personnel in this effort. Try to free the ship. Yes, sir. Are you down? Yes, Mr. Spock. Kirk and the officers accompanying him found themselves amid olive trees. Before them, on a grassy knoll, stood a small structure of snow-white marble. It was adorned with 6 fluted columns and graceful carved scrolls. The temple clearly exuded classical antiquity. And yet, there was something strangely familiar about it. A semicircular staircase led up into the building. Chekhov and Scotty covered Kirk from behind. He said, Monitor the tricorder readings. Carolyn Palamas turned pale and walked over to McCoy. Doctor, why did the captain take me here? McCoy replied, You're an expert on ancient civilizations. It looks like we've encountered one. We could use anything you can remember. He followed Kirk. Go ahead. It's best if we're all with the captain when he gets to the door. But there were no doors. They found themselves immediately in a room surrounded by columns. Opposite them, on a pedestal, stood a carved white marble throne. Nearby, on a table surrounded by benches, lay fruit and a skin of wine. Flutes played, and the melody they produced was inviting, wild, pagan. On a bench near the table sat the same handsome man whose face they had seen on the Enterprise's screen. A robe draped over his muscular dark shoulders barely covered his hips. A lyre lay beside him. He stood and walked toward them. Greetings, my children! How long I have waited for you! He was so young that, if it were not for the grandeur that permeated his entire being, the word children might have seemed absurd. Kirk said in a whisper, Bones, point your tricorder at him. Oh, we will remember our flourishing, beautiful Earth together. The man raised his hands, as if summoning memories. Its green meadows, blue skies, simple shepherds tending their flocks. Do you know about Earth? Kirk asked. Have you been there? The man smiled, flashing his dazzling teeth. Once upon a time, the earth trembled as soon as I waved my hand, and spring returned at my command. You mentioned Achilles, Kirk said. How do you know about him? Turn your gaze to past centuries. I live in your memories. Your fathers worshipped me, and your fathers' fathers did too. I am Apollo. It was insanely plausible. A temple, a lyre. Apollo was considered not only the god of the sun, but also the patron of music. And this man sitting across from them was truly as handsome as a god, and spoke like the heroes of ancient tragedies. Chekhov broke the spell. In that case, I am the Tsar of all Rus. Mr. Chekhov. Forgive me, Captain, I have never met gods before. Who told you it was a god? Kirk countered. Bones, what does your tricorder tell you? This is the most ordinary humanoid. You're as ill-mannered as satyrs. I'll have to teach you some manners. The creature kept its gaze fixed on Carolyn Palamas. It walked up to her and patted her chin. Scotty grew furious, but Kirk stopped him. Calm down, Scotty. The Earth has always produced beautiful women. Well, at least that hasn't changed. I'm glad. Yes, we gods were right at home on Earth. Zeus, Athena, my sister Artemis. 5,000 years ago, we were right at home on it. Okay, Kirk said. We're here. Now let's talk. It looks like you're alone. Is there anything I can help you with? Help me? It's not in your power to help me. You will remain here. It sounded like a death sentence. The device that brought you here no longer works. Kirk flipped open the communicator. Silence. The creature remarked casually, "Captain, this device isn't working either." He paused and added, "You will worship me like your fathers and grandfathers." "If you want to pretend to be the god Apollo, go ahead," Kirk countered. "But you're no god to us." "I said," the humanoid repeated, "that you will worship me." "You have a lot to learn for that, my friend," Kirk snapped. "No, to you. Let's begin the lesson." Kirk couldn't believe his eyes. The humanoid, no more than 6 feet 2 inches tall, began to rapidly expand. He towered over them by 12 feet, but he was still growing. Finally, he became a massive thunder giant. He frowned, and a deafening clap of thunder rumbled. The light in the temple dimmed, and streaks of lightning tore through the darkness. Another clap of thunder. Kirk looked up and saw, high above the temple colonnade, a massive head crowned with a dazzling halo of lightning. Apollo said, "Welcome to Olympus, Captain Kirk." The Enterprise's commander froze in confusion. His mind refused to accept the being's divine nature, though everything pointed to it being true. Suddenly, he noticed Apollo's face contort, his massive shoulders slumping. Then, he vanished. McCoy spoke first. Wonderful." Kirk turned to the girl. "Lieutenant Palamas, what do you know about Apollo?" She looked at him with unseeing eyes. "What? Ah, Apollo. He was the son of Zeus and Leto, a mortal woman. He was considered the god of light, music, archery, and patron of soothsayers." "And this creature?" She thought about it. "Apparently, he knows about Earth. His manner of speech and appearance suggest antiquity. His face bears a striking resemblance to the sculptured images of gods preserved in museums." "Bones, is that you?" "I can't say anything definitive yet. He looks human, but that doesn't mean anything." "Whoever it is," Chekhov noted, "he is at a high level of development." "This creature has enormous reserves of energy," Scotty added. "Such tricks require a huge expenditure of energy." "Very well, but what energy? Where is the source?" Kirk asked impatiently. "Look around and see if you can locate the source." Scotty and Chekhov moved forward, tricorders at the ready, while Kirk turned thoughtfully to McCoy. "It seems to me that 5,000 years ago. Do you have a hypothesis, Jim?" "Maybe. What if—" "Jim, look!" Apollo, having again assumed his human form, sat on a marble throne. "Come here," he ordered. They obeyed. Kirk spoke. "Mister," he began, then hesitated, and finally decided. "Apollo, please tell us what you want from us. And, if possible, let's not mention Olympus. I want from you what is rightfully mine: loyalty, sacrifices, and worship. What do you offer in return?" Dark eyes looked at Kirk thoughtfully. "I offer you a life simple and full of joy, just like it was on our beautiful Earth thousands of years ago. We are not used to bowing to everyone we meet on our way. You're like Agamemnon and Hercules. They were just as proud and tall." The low voice trembled with bitterness. "They too tried to fight me, and learned the full weight of my wrath. Scotty walked up to Kirk and heard Apollo's last words. "We can get angry too," he declared heatedly. "There are 130 people on my ship," Kirk added, "and they are mine," Apollo said. "I am free to take care of them or destroy them." Caroline suddenly intervened in the conversation. "But why? It's completely pointless." Apollo's gaze fell on her shining golden hair. "What is your name?" "Lieutenant Palamas." "I want to know your name." She looked at Kirk pleadingly. "Caroline." "Yes," Apollo leaned forward. "Aphrodite has generously gifted you with beauty. I have much to tell you. We will talk about heroism and love." "Leave her alone," Scotty shouted. "Do you object?" Apollo laughed. "Mortal, you risk much." Scotty pulled out his phaser. "And you too!" Apollo instantly rose to his feet and pointed his phaser. Blue flame erupted from his finger, and Scotty, crying out in pain, dropped the weapon. Kirk bent to pick it up, but Chekhov beat him to it. The phaser had dissolved into a lump of molten metal. Chekhov handed it to Kirk. The lump was hot to the touch. "Very impressive," Kirk said with genuine respect in his voice. "How do you generate the power?" "Captain!" Chekhov shouted. "Phasers!" Kirk pulled out his phaser. It, too, had been reduced to a piece of useless metal. "Your toys won't work." Apollo decided to change the subject. He descended from his throne and approached Caroline. "Yes," he said, looking into her eyes. "Cyprus has shown unusual generosity. But the hand that holds the bow must be bare." He touched her clothing. The fabric became thin and fell in soft golden folds. Caroline wore a long, soft tunic, leaving her left shoulder bare. Her boots transformed into golden sandals. She whispered in admiration, "How beautiful it is." "You're the one who's beautiful," he said. "Let's go." "She's not coming with you," Scotty shouted. He took an angry step toward them and was thrown back onto the marble bench. McCoy rushed toward him. "This mortal needs to learn to obey," Apollo said. "As do all of you, by the way." He held Caroline's hand. "But you will come with me." Kirk tried to approach them, but the girl shook her head. "Everything is fine, Captain." Hearing this, Apollo smiled. "That's good. You're not afraid. I like that." Suddenly, they were both engulfed in a glow and dissolved into it. McCoy shouted to Kirk, "Scotty's unconscious, but he's coming around. Jim, I don't think we should have let Caroline get away. We need to keep an eye on this Apollo guy." "It wasn't that easy to stop him," Kirk said. "Scotty tried." "I don't like how his mood is constantly changing. One moment he's generous, the next he's mean. He might kill her if she tries to talk back." "Yes," Kirk turned to Chekhov. "Mr. Chekhov, continue observation." "Are you all right, Scotty?" The engineer shook his head. "I don't know. I'm burning up. Everything inside me is on fire. Did he take her with him?" "Looks like it, Scotty." "Captain, he has to be stopped. He wants her. He was looking at her." "Mr. Scotty, the lieutenant went with him voluntarily to learn more about him. I understand your concerns, but she's doing her job. It's time for you to do yours. We need to determine where he's getting his energy from. You have a tricorder. Get to work. And don't you dare resist him. I don't want you killed. That's an order." Scotty's face darkened, and he followed Chekhov. McCoy said, "Jim, Scotty doesn't believe in gods." "But Apollo could have been a god in the past." "Do you think so?" "Bones, what if 5,000 years ago, a group of highly advanced humanoids came to Earth and landed near the Aegean Sea?" Simple-minded Greek shepherds might well have mistaken them for gods, especially if they could shapeshift and possessed vast reserves of energy. McCoy considered. Then he nodded. They're like people, sometimes magnanimous, sometimes vengeful. Perhaps you're right. But I'd prefer our beauty to be safe aboard the Enterprise. Caroline's golden sandals stepped on the soft grass in the clearing. McCoy dismissed the man walking beside her as a mere humanoid. The air was filled with the chirping of birds. Her hand rested in his. He raised it to his lips. They were so warm. The sound of the waterfall drifted through the birdsong. Carolyn Palamas thought, I'm both afraid of him and not afraid of him. How strange. I've known many women, he said, mortals like Daphne and Cassandra. None of them were as beautiful as you. Are you afraid of me? I don't know. It's not every day you hear that from God. Believe me. She decided to change the subject. How do you know about Earth? You remember her too, right? Earth is my home too, and I've always remembered it with reverence. It was fun there. There were brave heroes, beautiful women. You're so alone, she said. The rest, where are the everyone else? Hera, Hermes, your sister Artemis? They flew to the stars on the wings of the wind, he replied. Do you mean to say that they died? No. We gods are immortal. It is the earth that died. Your fathers turned their backs on us, and we became memories. A god cannot be a memory. We need to be worshipped, loved. Do you really think you're a god? He laughed. It's become a habit. But it's partly true. People's lives depended on us. When they rejected us, we could have descended from Olympus and destroyed them. But we didn't want to kill. So we returned to the stars. His voice wavered. Those who loved us are long gone. We waited for thousands of years without worship, without love. But you said that gods don't die. Hera was the first to leave. She stood in front of the temple, and the wind caught her. She grew lighter and finally vanished completely. Even gods cannot always return. He paused, then turned to her. And here you are, he said. A light breeze rustled the grass at his feet. His gaze spoke volumes to her, and she found it pleasant. Suddenly, she was overcome with an inexplicable anxiety. I knew you would one day go to the stars. Of all the gods, I alone believed in it. I waited for you to come to the temple and sit next to me. I was so alone. She didn't answer. Zeus, he said, took Latona, my mother. She was mortal like you. He took her to care for her, to protect her, to love her. He hugged her, but she whispered, No, not now. You're so kind to me and so lonely. I feel sorry for you, but I don't know. I've waited 5,000 years. He kissed her. She pulled back slightly, and he released her. I'll wait until you calm down. The temple is nearby. He leaned over and kissed her forehead, then turned and walked up the slope. She watched him go, tears streaming down her cheeks. Something was about to happen. Who could say what awaited her? Meanwhile, the birds fell silent and the shadows lengthened. She waited a little longer and followed him up to the temple. Kirk, Scotty, McCoy, and Chekhov were surveying the area around the temple at the time. She heard Chekhov shout to Kirk,
Captain, my tricorder is responding to some energy source.
She was glad that Scotty was looking at the ground now.
Captain, I cannot determine his exact location, but it looks like Apollo is succeeding, Mr. Scotty. He's recharging from it. But how?
The electric eel can also generate energy and control it without harming itself, Chekhov said. And the dry worm on Ethnos. Please don't tell me everything you know, McCoy pleaded.
But the captain asked me to provide him with the necessary information,
Chekhov answered calmly. Jim, Spock is going to ruin this guy. Mr. Chekhov, do you believe Apollo feeds on energy by discharging it through his body? Kirk asked.
It looks that way, sir. But we don't know where he gets his energy from. We have to find out if we want to cut him off from his source.
That needs to be done first, McCoy muttered. Bones, is that all you can offer us? Yes, it's true there's something else. Our Apollo has an extra organ. I have no idea what function it performs. An additional organ? Bones, is there even the slightest chance? Captain! Scotty shouted. Apollo suddenly appeared on the temple steps. Kirk walked toward him. Where is Lieutenant Palamas? She's fine. And yet, I would like to know. Don't let that worry you anymore, Captain Kirk. You damned barbarian, what have you done to her? Scotty shouted. Kirk didn't have time to stop him. Scotty grabbed the stone and lunged at Apollo. Apollo raised his hand, and blue lightning erupted from his finger. Scotty flew into the air and fell flat on the ground, the stone falling from his hand and rolling down the hillside. How is he? Kirk asked. McCoy leaned over Scotty. Nothing comforting, Jim. He's in deep shock. Kirk looked at Scotty. Blood was seeping from a deep wound on his face. Kirk stood for a moment, watching McCoy draw the medicine into a syringe. Then he turned and began to climb the temple steps. Okay then, Mr. Last of the Gods. You wanted to find love, but you sowed hatred. From now on... Apollo charged at him. Blue lightning struck him square in the chest. Kirk gasped, clutching his heart, then lost consciousness and fell face down. McCoy ran up to him and pulled down his eyelid. The second patient, he muttered to no one in particular. 2 idiots. Caroline, having recovered from her fright, jumped out from behind the tree and rushed, screaming towards the steps of the temple.
What did you do to them? What did you do?
I had to teach them a lesson, Apollo said wearily. She turned her back on him and ran to her comrades. Kirk struggled to his feet, McCoy supporting him by the shoulders. She knelt beside Scotty and wiped the blood from his chin with her tunic. When she touched him, he opened his eyes and smiled faintly. What happened? He said. Try to control yourself next time, McCoy remarked dryly. I'll rip his head off, Scotty said. You disobeyed orders. When we return to the ship, we'll take care of your case. She's worth it, Captain. You're a Starfleet officer. Behave with dignity. Besides, you could have been killed. Caroline jumped to her feet. Apollo is not going to kill anyone. Kirk stared at her. Women are women, he thought. They are so trusting. But out loud he coldly remarked, Lieutenant, he has already tried to do this several times. He could, but he didn't kill anyone. Captain, you have to understand that. He doesn't mean to harm us. He's just very lonely. He's the god of light, of music. He won't harm us. Kirk grabbed her by the shoulders. What did he do to you? Nothing, we were just talking. About what? Captain, Kirk's voice was as hard as the stones of the temple. Answer me, Lieutenant. What he said may help us. She lowered her eyes. He said there comes a point after which nothing can be returned. that it's beyond even a god's power. Of course, he's not a god. He's so human. But he's not human either, Scotty noted grimly. No, she cried. He is even more than human. Lieutenant, there are 430 crew members on the ship, and they are in trouble. Oh, I know, Captain. You think I don't know about this? I just can't. She burst into tears. Be gentle with her, Jim. Why? So she could play out an exciting love affair? God himself is courting her. That's no small feat, Jim. Kirk shrugged in irritation. How are you feeling, Scotty? I can't move my left hand. You won't be able to do that for a while. You have some kind of nerve damage. Jim, I could help you if I had the necessary tools with me. There's one more reason we need to get out of here, Kirk said, stepping over a log, pushing it aside, and turning to wave at McCoy. Bones, listen. I was trying to remember what I know from Greek mythology. So, after expending their energy, the gods needed rest, just like humans. At least I assume that's the case. Do you think Apollo is charging its batteries somewhere? It's not so unlikely. He's disappeared again, hasn't he? Why wouldn't he be resting somewhere after the show he put on for us? Remember, he's maintaining the force field around the ship, and he's also draining the energy down here. What do I mean? What if we overload him, drain him? That might help us. The problem is that he can kill us all.
No. If we manage to provoke him into hitting one of us again, the energy drain might leave him vulnerable, and he won't be able to harm the others. I'm still afraid that we might all die. Bones, you're a pessimist. This is our only option. When he gets back, we'll try. Hint at Chekhov about the plan. Scotty's still hand pulls him out of the fight. By the way, let's get him into the shade of the temple. It's hot in the sun. But Carolyn Palamas was already helping Scotty into the cool of the temple and settle into a bench. Kirk, who had followed them, heard her say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't blame you, Scotty replied darkly, looking into her face. He pushed away with his good hand. Carolyn, you can't let yourself fall in love with him. Do you think I want this? Kirk interrupted them. You must answer this question, Lieutenant. What do you really want? Pull yourself together and tell me. Jim, he recharged his batteries. McCoy warned him very quietly. Kirk turned around. Full of strength, a radiant Apollo stood leaning on the marble throne, his dark eyes fixed on them, watching intently. Come here, he said. Kirk, McCoy, and Chekhov obeyed. You're trying to run away from me. It's pointless. I know everything you mortals do. You know nothing of us mortals, Kirk said. The mortals you know of are our distant ancestors. They were the ones who trembled before your tricks. But they don't frighten us, just as you don't frighten us. He spoke with deliberate boldness. We've come a long way in evolution over the past 5,000 years. I can destroy you with a wave of my hand. A dazzling smile flashed. Then I can resurrect you again. I can give life and take it away. What more could humanity want from its gods? That's enough for us, Kirk said. Apollo sighed wearily. No more discussion, mortal. I offer you eternal joy, just like in the good old days. And I ask very little in return, but what I ask, I will achieve. He leaned forward. Come to me. Not only did they disobey, but instead they turned their backs on him and headed towards the temple exit. I said, come to me. No, Kirk said over his shoulder. You will gather bay leaves. You will light ancient fires. You will kill a deer and bring it to me as a sacrifice. Kirk burst out laughing. Collect bay leaves? Just listen to him.
It's warm now, even without fires, McCoy shouted. Chekhov laughed. Maybe we should dance around the maypole some more. Apollo rose. You will reap the fruits of your arrogance. Spread out. Get ready, Kirk said quietly. Then he turned and shouted, We're tired of you and your stupid fireworks. You deserve it. Apollo raised his hand as Caroline shouted, No, no, please, no! A father doesn't kill his children. You're kind. You love them. How can they revere you if you hurt them? Mortals often make mistakes. You know us. Shh, Kirk hissed. She barely glanced at him. Now she was kneeling before the throne. Please, you know so much about love. Don't hurt them. The raised hand fell. Apollo stepped down from the dais and embraced her. Then he seated Caroline on his throne. Placing his hand on her shoulder, he turned to face them. She is my love for 10,000 years, he said. For her sake, I will be lenient with you. Bring the rest of the people here. They will need houses. Tell your artisans to bring axes. Kirk's voice was broken by bitter disappointment. And you, of course, will provide us with sheep that we will herd and flutes that we will play. Apollo hugged Caroline, and the next moment, a blaze of sunlight appeared around them. They dissolved into it and disappeared. Captain, we must do something. Kirk walked over to the bench where Scotty lay. We were trying to do something until that girl of yours interfered. Okay, she stopped him this time. How long do you think her influence will last? Caroline asked herself this question too. The gods were known for their fickleness in love. Now the summer grass on the olive-covered slope was still green beneath her sandals. What about fall or winter? Surely they would come in their own time. Summer would pass, and when it ended, she would know whether disaster or glory awaited her. For now, she wanted to know nothing but the warmth of his hand. They are fools, he said. They think they have evolved. They are mistaken. They have forgotten everything that gives meaning to life. The meaning of life for the mortal gods. They are my friends, she said. They will be with you, he said. I will make them stay with you, with us. For your sake, I will take care of them. She was shaking. She clenched her hands tightly to keep them from shaking. He took them in his. I am better than any dream of love you could have, he continued. You and I, we are both immortal now. Their lips met in a kiss. Caroline hugged him. Yes, you're right, she whispered. Yes, yes, yes. Kirk eyed her warily as she returned to the temple. Lieutenant, where is he? She didn't answer, and Scotty, with difficulty raising his head from the bench, saw her face. What happened to her? If he... She walked past him silently toward the throne. Her gaze was already that of a woman. It became clear that the men of the Enterprise had ceased to exist for her. She can't speak, Scotty said, puzzled. He's taken away her speech. Easy there, Scotty, Kirk said. She won't talk to you. You're too much of a liability. But she will talk to me. Do you need help, Captain? Chekhov asked. How old are you, Lieutenant Chekhov? 22, sir. Then stay put, Kirk said. He walked up to the girl. Are you all right, Lieutenant Palamas? She came down from the platform. What? I asked if everything was okay with you. All right? Oh, yes, I'm fine. And I have a message for you. Sit down, Kirk said. Here, on the bench. Next to me, here. She swallowed. He wants us to live in eternal joy. He wants to protect us and provide us with everything we need until the end of our days. He can do it. Kirk stood up. Okay, Lieutenant, pull yourself together. Remember, you have a job to do. Work? He thrives on love, on adoration. It's his food. He gives so much himself, she said. He gives. We cannot worship him. None of us. And especially not you. What? Reject him. You must. I love him, she said. Kirk rubbed his cheek with his palm. All our lives, both here and on the ship, depend on you. No, not from me. Please, not from me. From you, Lieutenant. You are condemning the crew of the Enterprise to slavery. Do you hear me? To slavery. The blue-gray eyes did not understand. He wants the best for us, and he's so alone. Her voice wavered. What you're asking of me will break his heart. How can I? How can I? She burst into convulsive sobs. Give me your hand, Lieutenant. What? He grabbed her hand. Do you feel mine? Human flesh next to human flesh? This is flesh born of the same time. The same century gave birth to us, you and me. We are contemporaries, Lieutenant. His voice lost its warmth. You must remember who you are. A lump of flesh and blood floating in endless space. The only thing truly yours is the small slice of time you share with humanity, the one that truly belongs to you. But his slice of time is alien to us. Do you understand me? There was pain in her eyes, but he withstood the onslaught until she whispered, Yes, I understand. She stood up, walked away from him mechanically, bent down to pick up the tricorder, and then, half turning, looked at the temple's ceiling as if listening. He's calling me, she whispered. I don't hear anything, he said. She didn't answer. His face hardened. Desperately, he grabbed her shoulders, but when he touched her, she seemed to dissolve, to slip away. Kirk was alone. He sank onto the bench and clasped his head in his hands. Slavery awaited them all. McCoy, Scotty, Chekhov, and those up on the ship would be enslaved too. Zulu, Uhura, Spock. This is Spock, Captain. Enterprise calling Captain Kirk. Respond, Captain. I'm going crazy, Kirk said. His useless communicator began to buzz again. Comm is restored, Captain. Respond. First Officer Spock to Captain Kirk. Kirk here, Mr. Spock. Are you all right, sir? Yes, Mr. Spock. We've detected an energy source on the planet that may be connected to a force field. Is there any structure near you? Kirk felt like laughing stupidly. Indeed, Mr. Spock. I am in it. There's definitely energy coming out of him. Oh, come on. How are you doing with the force field? Atomic electronics tells us we can punch holes in it by synchronizing our phaser banks. We'll aim our phasers, and there will be breaks in the field ahead of them. Kirk took a deep breath. It should work, Mr. Spock. Have Zulu lock all the phaser banks to this structure. Fire on my signal, but be careful. We need time to get out of here. I would recommend that you all move to a safe distance, Captain. Believe me, Mr. Spock, we would be happy to do so, but we are not all in this together. One of us is a hostage of the Greek god Apollo. The marble temple is the source of his power. I want to know where he will be when we attack the temple. Stand down. I seem to have lost touch with reality. McCoy looked at Kirk curiously. Or perhaps you did. Was it Spock talking to you through a broken communicator, or some spirits? Contact restored. Don't ask me how. Ask Spock when you meet him again. Now we need to get out of here. Every phaser bank on the Enterprise is aimed at that something. I'll help you transport Scotty somewhere else. Scotty said, "Sir, I will not leave." Then he became worried. "Captain, we must wait until Carolyn arrives before firing on the temple. We don't know what he'll do to her if he's suddenly attacked." "I know," Kirk said. "Of course, we'll wait." Having adjusted his injured arm more comfortably, he continued. "Tell me, Bones, could this mysterious organ in Apollo's magnificent chest serve to transmit energy?" "I can't imagine what it's intended for, Jim." Her magnificent breasts, despite the extra organ, held a special significance for Caroline Palamas. She was completely focused on one thought. She couldn't let him touch her. If he touched her— "You gave them my message," he said. "Did you convince them?" One might say he himself was the source of this mysterious power. But no. He was the source of inexplicable rapture. People, millions of people, shared a single moment with her. They filled it with her. But none of them could awaken the kind of ecstasy that was born in her at the mere sound of his voice. "You've convinced them," he said. "Who can refuse you anything?" His eyes were like the night sky, strewn with stars. He grabbed her in his arms, and she couldn't refuse his kiss. "I must say, you parody human behavior quite well," she said. "Your evolutionary path. What are you talking about? I'm sure it's quite unique. I've never seen anything like it before." "Really?" His eyes sparkled with laughter as he reached out to her again. However, she remained distant. A spark of anger ignited. "I am Apollo. I have chosen you." "But I have work." "Work? For you?" "I'm a scientist. My specialty is traces, the worn remnants of the past." She forced a laugh. "Now you know why I've been studying you." She took the tricorder off her shoulder, pointing it at him. "I'd appreciate it if you told me how you stole a temple from Greece." He knocked the tricorder out of her hands. "You shouldn't talk like that. You love me. Do you think I don't know when I'm loved?" "You're confusing me with a shepherdess. I can't love you any more than I can love a new species of bacteria." Lifting the hem of her golden robe, she left it behind and walked back toward the hill. He stood beside her, pain and anger etched on his face. "Caroline, what did you tell me? I forbid you to leave. I command you to come back to me." "I'm dying," she thought. But she said out loud, "And where are the lightning bolts that threw your frightened nymphs to their knees?" It seemed like an eternity. His hand slipped from her shoulder. Then a wild cry erupted from Apollo's chest. He raised his hand and shook his fist in the air. The air on the hill suddenly became stifling, oppressive. The sun had disappeared. A cool breeze began to flutter the edges of her robe as she ran up the slope. At this point, the wind wasn't just flapping Kirk's jacket. A fierce gust nearly blew it off his shoulders. The communicator barely hummed as its howl grew louder. "Captain," Spock said, "sensors indicate a strong atmospheric disturbance in your area." The sensors weren't exaggerating. The clouds above Kirk's head thickened and darkened to black. A three-pronged serpent of lightning split them, followed by a clap of thunder and another bolt of lightning flashing across the sky. Kirk heard the crack of a broken tree, and an olive tree less than 5 feet away burst into flames. Grabbing the communicator, he shouted, "Prepare phaser groups! Mr. Spock, prepare to fire on my signal!" Scotty rushed towards him. "Captain, we must go find her!" "No, we have to stay here, Scotty. When he comes back..." The wind carried his words away. "What if he doesn't come back, sir?" "We'll make him come back. When this temple..." However, there was no need to return it. He returned. And it was the hurricane god himself. He towered over the olive trees. Goliath, the Olympian Apollo, had returned in his gigantic, literal form. His enormous head was thrown back in terrible agony, his mouth wide open, both gigantic fists raised to the sky. It obeyed him. It sent deathly pale lightning bolts racing toward the earth. The mouth spewed peals of thunder. The leaves withered. The tree trunk near Kirk began to smoke. Then it burst into flames, and the black sky poured down streams of rain. Stumbling toward the temple, Carolyn Palamas screamed something. The storm wind tore at her soaked clothing. Suddenly, the bush she'd been caught in tore itself from the ground, its branches grabbing at her, as if trying to stop her. Apollo had found her. He was everywhere, and there was no hiding from him. She saw him. The storm god leaned down from the trees to show her his distraught face. He brought it closer, closer, until she screamed, "Forgive me! Forgive me!" And she fell as if mown down. "Captain, did you hear? She screamed!" "Right now, Mr. Spock," Kirk said into the communicator. White-hot phaser beams struck the temple directly in the center of the roof. "No! No! No!" The temple seemed small compared to the god. Apollo unclenched his fists and spread his arms wide. Blue lightning streamed from his fingers. "Oh, stop it! Please stop it!" Caroline, running toward Apollo, stopped. Behind him, the temple swayed and began to disappear. It shuddered and vanished. She fell to her knees before the man-sized creature who stood in his place. He said in a broken voice, "I would love you as a father loves his children. Was that too much to ask of you?" The grief-stricken face touched Kirk. "We have outgrown you," he said softly. "You asked for what we can no longer give." Apollo looked at the girl at his feet. "I opened my heart to you. Look what you did to me." She saw a gentle breeze stir his hair. She kissed his feet and felt the flesh beneath her lips, his body, lose its substance. "Zeus, my father, you were right. Hera, you were wise. Our time is past. Take me home to the stars on the wings of the wind." The words seemed to come from far away. He disappeared, and it became very quiet in front of the ruined temple. "It's a shame we had to do this," McCoy said. "And I'm sorry." Kirk's voice was grim. "It all came from worshipping those Greek gods. The philosophy, the culture. I wonder if we could collect some bay leaves." He shrugged, looking at the sky. You could hear a woman crying and raindrops falling from the olive trees. McCoy, walking across the Enterprise's bridge, approached Kirk and Spock, who were sitting at the computer. "So, Bones, is anyone sick?" "Caroline Palamas refused breakfast today." "Some kind of infection?" "She's pregnant, Jim. I just examined her." "What?" "What did you hear?" "Apollo?" "Yes." "Bones, this is impossible." McCoy leaned his hand on the computer lid. "Spock," he said, "may I ask that clever machine of yours a question? I'd like to ask you this. Should I convert our isolation ward into a maternity ward for a human baby? Or..." My medical training didn't include midwifery for infants conceived by the gods. Werewolf. According to census results, the population of the Malurian system, which consisted of 2 habitable planets, had surpassed 4 billion. Less than a week had passed since Kirk last contacted the leader of the federal research team working on the planets. But when the Enterprise arrived in the system to pick up the researchers, it turned out they had been unable to detect any signs of life on either planet. If a natural disaster had occurred, it would not have gone unnoticed by astronomers, and they might even have been able to prevent it. An interplanetary war would inevitably have produced a huge amount of radioactive decay products, but instruments have established that the level did not exceed background levels. No disease could have wiped out living organisms on 2 planets in a week. Furthermore, the inhabitants would certainly have had time to send a distress signal. The situation became somewhat clearer when the ship's deflector screen flickered. Another ship was flying toward the Enterprise. Its intentions didn't remain a secret for long. An alarm sounded on the bridge. The Enterprise had repelled the first strike. "The defense worked, Captain," Scotty said. "Fine. I'm afraid we won't last long," Scotty added. "The energy absorbed by the shields is equivalent to 90 photon torpedoes." "As you said, Mr. Spock. 90? "Yes, Captain. Furthermore, after this attack, our shield strength has been reduced by approximately 20%. In other words, we'll only be able to repel 3 more attacks before our shields give out." "What is their source?" "It appears to be very small, located 90,000 kilometers away. The sensors aren't detecting any living beings, but we'll try to negotiate. They can apparently withstand more impacts than we can." "Lieutenant Uhura, connect my microphone to the electronic translator and try to make contact." "Yes, sir." "Captain Kirk of the Enterprise, calling an unknown ship. We are on a mission of peace. Please identify yourself." There was no answer. "Mr. Spock, what else do you know about this ship?" "Weight, 500 kilograms, sir. Shape, cylindrical. Length, just over a meter. It's most likely a space shuttle. There should be a carrier ship somewhere nearby." Spock shook his head. "The scanners only register the presence of one ship, and it was the one that fired at us. But such a small ship couldn't possibly contain intelligent beings." "Captain, message received!" Uhura exclaimed. The strange voice that came from the speaker was devoid of any expression. "Enterprise, this is the Wanderer. I have peaceful intentions. I am prepared to negotiate. Can you leave your ship?" "Yes," Kirk replied. "But we can't board your ship. It's too small for us." "Yes," replied the Wanderer. "Your words make sense. We agree to accommodate you on board our ship." Everyone except Spock looked at Kirk with concern. The Wanderer replied, "The offer is accepted. Do you require any special conditions, such as atmosphere?" "No. Please try not to change your coordinates. We'll beam you aboard our ship now." Kirk glared at Uhura, who suddenly cut off the connection. "Captain," Scotty asked, "are you sure you want to move that thing here?" "Mr. Scotty, at least as long as she's aboard our ship, she won't fire at us. But right now, we're a perfect target for her. Lieutenant Uhura, ask Dr. McCoy to go into the transport chamber. Spock, Scotty, come on." The shimmering vortex that accompanied the teleportation process suddenly vanished, and a dull metal cylinder appeared on the chamber floor. The Wanderer was motionless, silent, and somehow inconspicuous. The outlines of hatches were visible on its hull, but there were no portholes or sensors. Spock walked up to the scanner and shrugged. "We can't see anything, Captain. The Wanderer has deployed a protective screen, and we can't penetrate it." There was a moment of silence. Then McCoy asked, "What should we do next? Go up and knock?" As if in response, the Wanderer's even, expressionless voice came over the ship's communication system. "Name the place of your creation." Kirk said, "We are from the United Federation of Planets." The answer is incomplete. All things must be created somewhere. I'll scan your star maps. Kirk thought for a moment, then turned to Spock. What if we show him a close-up of our system? That makes sense, Spock replied. It won't do any good, because he has nothing to compare it with. Wanderer, Kirk addressed the cylinder. If you abandon your ship, we will provide you with all necessary life support systems. The answer is incomplete. Jim, McCoy interjected, I don't think there's anyone there. I have no parasitic forms. I am a wanderer. It's a machine gun, Scotty said, calming down a little. Mr. Spock, what is your opinion? Captain, I think Mr. Scotty is right. It looks like the Wanderer's actions are controlled by a computer. I am the Wanderer. What does opinion mean? An opinion, Spock replied, is a view, belief, or judgment. The answer is incomplete. Where do you draw your energy from? Scotty asked. The source has changed during the flight. Much has been borrowed. Now I work with cosmic radiation. I am eternal. Kirk pulled Spock aside and said quietly, In my opinion, at the beginning of the third millennium, a space probe called the Wanderer was launched from Earth. Yes, it was thought to have crashed. No other probes in this series were produced. What if this is the same probe? I'm ready to scan your star maps, said the Wanderer. We'll bring them now. I have the ability to move inside your ship. After a moment's thought, Kirk said, Over here. Scotty, recharge our shields as quickly as possible. Spock, Bones, come with me. He headed for the emergency control room, the Wanderer following behind. In the control room, Spock approached the computer. Map 14A, sir? Kirk nodded. The assistant captain pressed a few buttons, and a schematic representation of the solar system, not drawn to scale, appeared on the screen. Wanderer, Kirk said, can you scan this map? Yes. This is where we come from, a star called the Sun. Are you from the third planet? Yes. Does this planet have a large natural satellite? Yes. Is this planet called Earth? Yes, Kirk said, puzzled. An antenna appeared on the side of the cylinder, turned, and aimed at Kirk. He eyed it warily. So, said the Wanderer, you are Kirk, my creator. Sterilizing the ship would be a mistake. What sterilization? You know everything. You are Kirk, the creator. You programmed me. Okay, McCoy said. Since I'm not Kirk, explain to me what you're programmed to do. The antenna turned towards the surgeon. Creator, is this one of the devices you developed? Yes. There is no logic in his actions. It doesn't matter. Tell him about your mission. The antenna has moved. I was sent to identify sources of biological infestation. I must destroy imperfect parasitic forms. Kirk turned to Spock, who stood near the library computer. Biological invasion? We haven't sent a single probe for that purpose. I'm verifying the information I've received, Spock said. I'll have all the necessary data in a minute. Kirk turned to the Wanderer. It was you who destroyed the Malurian system? Why? The question is unclear. The system of this star, Omega Ceti. Not the system, but only the unstable parasitic forms. That's my task. Unstable forms? McCoy remarked angrily. The population of 2 planets! Well, Doctor, Kirk interrupted. Wanderer, why do you call me the Creator? Isn't that so? That's true, Spock interrupted him hastily. The Creator is simply testing your memory." "I wonder what Spock is planning," Kirk thought. "The smartest thing to do is keep quiet and play along." "The collision caused extensive damage," said the Wanderer. Kirk turned to the other crew members, who had been listening to the conversation in amazement. "Mr. Singh, please come here. Mr. Spock, Doctor, please proceed to the conference room. Wanderer, I'll be right back. This device called Singh will make sure you have everything you need." The cylinder said nothing. Kirk caught up with Spock and McCoy at the end of the corridor. "Spock, are you planning something? Explain." The Wanderer probe was launched from Earth in August 2002, according to the old calendar. I believe this is the same probe. "It's strange," McCoy said. "Earthly science couldn't have created a device with such capabilities at that time." "Besides," Kirk added, "the Wanderer is dead." "It's believed to have been destroyed in a meteor collision," Spock replied. "I believe it was seriously damaged, but managed to recover. What's unclear is that it was launched for peaceful purposes." They reached the conference room, and the captain's assistant stepped aside, letting Kirk pass. The creator of the Wanderer was the most talented, and at the same time, most eccentric cyberneticist of his era. He dreamed of creating the perfect thinking machine, capable of operating independently. His name was Jackson Roy Kirk. Some things began to become clear. "So that's it," Kirk said. "Yes, Captain. I think the Wanderer thinks you're Roy Kirk, which is why it stopped attacking when it heard your name. It recognized it, but only in a truncated form. Its damaged memory played a nasty trick on it. Look, I've programmed the computer to show an image of the Wanderer on the screen." Spock turned on the screen. A schematic of the probe appeared. Its size and shape were not much different from the current Wanderer, but its outlines were more defined. "But this is a different machine," McCoy said. "Doctor, it's not much different from the original version. I think it collided with a meteor." He spoke of something different. It remains unclear what he meant. The Wanderer was a thinking machine, the best of its time. It was designed as a prototype for a whole series of probes. But this scientific program was met with numerous objections from its opponents. When Jackson Roy Kirk died, it was finally brought to an end. "But if this is the Wanderer," Kirk remarked, "then why has it changed so much?" "I think he managed to compensate for the damage he received. He also changed his mission. He couldn't have been sent to find and destroy biological infestations." "Of course," McCoy said. "I think he was supposed to be looking for living things in other solar systems." "True, Doctor," Spock replied. "And yet somehow the Wanderer now finds perfect living beings. Perfect according to its inexorable logic." "If all this is true, Mr. Spock," Kirk interrupted, "then the Wanderer has reprogrammed itself to destroy any manifestations of non-mechanical life." "You're right, Captain. We've taken aboard our ship a device that will sooner or later destroy us all." Scotty's voice came from the speakers. "The bridge is calling Captain Kirk." "I'm listening, Scotty." "Sir, this mechanical beast is already here on the bridge." "Coming." Kirk tried to remember if he'd ordered the Wanderer to remain in the emergency bay. Apparently not. Uhura, Scotty, and Zulu were on duty on the bridge. Uhura was humming softly to herself. "I've always liked this song," Zulu said. At that moment, the elevator door opened, and the Wanderer appeared on the bridge. It paused for a moment, turned its antenna toward Uhura, and headed toward her. That's when Scotty called Kirk. "Why are you doing this?" asked the Wanderer. "Is this a new form of communication?" Uhura stared at it. She already knew about the device, but she hadn't seen it yet. "I don't understand what you mean. I was just singing." "For what purpose?" "I don't know. I just wanted to sing. I love music. What is music? Uhura laughed. It seemed absurd to talk about music with a machine. Music is a harmonious sequence of musical tones, sound vibrations of varying frequencies, purer than those used in ordinary speech. I hummed a relatively simple melody. For what purpose? Uhura shrugged helplessly. For my own pleasure. The answer is incomplete, the machine replied. It pointed a beam of light at Uhura's forehead. Think about music. Uhura's face became distant. Scotty jumped to his feet. Lieutenant, get away from that thing! The elevator doors opened and Kirk, Spock, and McCoy ran out. Scotty, be careful! Kirk shouted. Scotty had already reached the machine and attempted to move it out of the way. There was no movement from the device, but the engineer was nevertheless thrown against the nearest bulkhead. Zulu pushed Uhura away from the machine. McCoy rushed to Scotty's side and knelt down beside him, then looked at Kirk. Jim, he's dead. For a moment, Kirk froze in horror. Then he came to, feeling a wave of rage rising within him. Why did you kill him? He asked the Wanderer gloomily. This device touched my screens. That device was my chief engineer. He turned to Uhura. Lieutenant, are you all right? Lieutenant! That damned Wanderer, what did you do to her? This device is faulty. Its thinking lacks logic. When I tried to follow its train of thought, my electronic system nearly crashed. This device is a woman, Spock noted. Her thinking was contradictory. Kirk turned away angrily. Take Mr. Scotty downstairs. The Creator will repair a device called Scotty. He's dead. The answer is incomplete. He ceased to exist biologically, Kirk said, barely containing himself. If the Creator wants, the Wanderer said in an even voice, I can repair this device. Kirk looked at McCoy in amazement, who replied, Jim, I'm powerless, but if there's even the slightest chance, we need to hurry. Good. Wanderer, repair this device. I need information about its internal structure. Spock looked questioningly at McCoy. The surgeon replied, He needs information about general anatomy, the structure of the central nervous system, and all the data we have, as well as all of Scotty's electroencephalograms. Spock nodded and rushed to the computer. McCoy was giving orders. Done, Wanderer. The device floated closer. A thin wire emerged from it and pressed a button on the panel. Spock tapped the key and the computer started working. Having received the necessary information, the Wanderer pulled the wire back in. An interesting design, but, Creator, it has virtually no built-in fuses. It's prone to frequent breakdowns and is incapable of self-correcting. He suited me just the way he was, Kirk replied. All right, Creator. Where is Scotty's device now? Bones, take him to the isolation cell. Kirk flicked the switch and spoke into the microphone. Security, maintain 24/7 surveillance on the Wanderer. Send 2 agents to the containment area immediately. He turned to Spock. The Wanderer requires power. We must cut off its access. It won't be able to recharge itself with cosmic rays inside the Enterprise. We're too well shielded from them. Let's feed everything we have into the computer and see if we can get a clue. A wise decision, Captain, but easier said than done. Nevertheless, go ahead. Spock, I'll be waiting for you in the isolation ward. Scotty's body lay on the table, the Wanderer hovering above it. McCoy and Nurse Christine Chapel were nearby, while Kirk and 2 security agents stood near the wall. The Wanderer scanned the body with its extended antenna, humming softly. The nurse looked at the instrument screens. "Doctor, none of his organs are functioning." "This is clear even without instruments." Suddenly, the instrument needles began to move. A staccato sound was heard, then it grew louder. Scotty opened his eyes and frowned at the people tending to him. Just then, Spock entered the isolation chamber. "What are you staring at me for?" Scotty asked. "I can't believe my eyes," McCoy whispered. Scotty looked around and, noticing the Wanderer, sat up in fear. "Why am I here? What did he do to Lieutenant Uhura?" "She'll be taken care of, Scotty," McCoy said. "Lie down. I want to examine you." "Scotty's device has been repaired," the Wanderer stated. "It will function as before if the information you provided is correct." "Bones, will he be able to perform his duties?" "If you don't mind, I'd like to examine it. A person isn't just a device that can be quickly fixed." "What did he do to me?" Scotty asked. Kirk suddenly felt a sense of awe. Raise a man from the dead. "Well, he resolutely dismissed the idea. "Dr. McCoy will explain everything to you, Scotty." "Sister Chapel," McCoy said, "prepare the patient for examination." "Yes, sir." Kirk walked out of the isolation cell and headed to the room where Uhura was. "Wanderer, follow me." The probe slid in after them, and a little later, Spock and McCoy joined them. Uhura lay motionless in bed. She didn't react to their arrival. "Wanderer, can you repair her?" Kirk asked. "No," the probe replied. "But you were able to restore Scotty's functions, and he suffered more significant damage." In the previous case, physiological functions needed to be restored. This device's external databanks were erased. "External? Be more precise." "She has retained the memories of her life, but she does not remember how to express them logically or musically, and she does not know how to use them." "Captain, if that is so," Spock intervened. "If she retained her mind and the memory loss is purely external, she can be taught everything again." "Bones?" "I'll take care of it right now," McCoy said, turning to the Wanderer. "Even though you brought Scotty back to life, you're still a pile of metal." "The Creator wishes the Wanderer to wait for him elsewhere?" Spock interjected. "Yes. Guards, Wanderer, follow these devices. They will lead you to where you will await my orders. Guards, take him to a secure cell in the ship's prison." When the guards and the probe had left, Spock said, "I intervened, Doctor, because the Wanderer wouldn't understand your anger. Its mechanical potential is immense, but it seems to destroy anyone who shows emotion. It even reacts to the pleasure derived from music. It's little different from a living being." Kirk looked at him with displeasure. "Mr. Spock, I understand your admiration, but don't forget that this probe is a killer. We must disarm it." "You're right, Captain. This must be the most advanced machine in the galaxy. If only we could figure out how it works." "I intend to neutralize him at all costs." "Do you want to destroy the Wanderer, Captain?" "If necessary," Kirk said. "Grab all the necessary equipment and conduct a detailed inspection of the Wanderer. I'm interested in where it draws its power." "Yes, sir." The assistant captain left, and Kirk and McCoy returned to the isolation chamber. Scotty was still lying on the table. McCoy looked at the instruments and shook his head in disbelief. "Everything is fine," he said. "The body is functioning normally." "So," Scotty asked, "I can work on my engines?" Kirk looked at McCoy, who nodded. "Okay, Scotty." "It's a shame," McCoy remarked as Scotty left. "But Spock is right. The Wanderer is a unique machine. Don't forget that she kills as quickly as she heals. Bones, if anyone asks me,
I'm in jail. Two guards, phasers in hand, stood before a secure force door. Inside the chamber, Spock, armed with a set of portable scanners, eyed the Wanderer hovering above the floor with disapproval. The Wanderer, its antenna extended, watched him closely. The guard turned off the force screen, and after letting Kirk into the chamber, immediately turned it back on. Kirk asked, "What's the matter?" The Wanderer refuses to remove the screens and submit to scanning. I can't do anything without his cooperation. Kirk looked at the quietly humming machine. Wanderer, let Spock test your memory. Creator, is this Spock also one of your biological devices? Yes. This device is more advanced, very interesting. At another time, Kirk would have laughed at the machine's use of his favorite term for Spock. Now, he had no time for laughter. Too much was at stake. Wanderer, carry out the order. The screens have been removed. You can begin your inspection. Spock set to work. After a few seconds, he paused, stunned, then reconfigured the instruments. The computer immediately gave him a sheet of paper, and he began to study it. After a while, he made a proposal. Captain, let's go out into the corridor. I want to talk to you privately. In the corridor, he said, Captain, I think I'm starting to figure out what happened, but the information I got from the instruments isn't enough for me. Allow me to ask the Wanderer a few questions. It's too dangerous. Captain, it only reacts to a lack of logic. If you remember, on Vulcan we know how to subject our minds to strict mental discipline. By sheer force of will, we can force ourselves to think about only one thing. I'll use this technique. And if you're distracted even for a moment, the Wanderer will destroy you. It's currently in isolation. We know so little about him that we can't say for sure whether we're in danger when he's in the cell. If my guess is confirmed, we'll at least understand him better. We won't be able to control him without understanding what he's up to. Okay, Kirk said, taking a phaser from one of the guards. I'll keep this thing handy, just in case. They re-entered the cell. Spock sat down on the bunk and put his head in his hands. Kirk thought he could hear his brain working. Wanderer, the Spock device will ask you a few questions. Answer them as if I were asking you. Okay, Creator. Finally, Spock broke the silence and asked the first question. Wanderer, has there been an accident? Yes. Did you collide with another object? Yes. That object was uncontrollable. We merged. That object wasn't an ambassador from Earth? Did it have a different mission? Spock handed Kirk a piece of paper with a drawing of something vaguely resembling a space capsule. He had this drawing in his memory. Is this the object? Yes. Wanderer, your memory has been severely damaged. You borrowed individual blocks from another object. The machine buzzed and extended its antenna, pointing it at Spock. I have no memory of this. You are mistaken. Wanderer, logically speaking, you can't say I'm wrong. If your memory has been damaged, you can't know whether I'm wrong or not. Spock fell silent. The antenna disappeared. Do you agree that I'm thinking logically? After the collision with the other object, you received new instructions. All imperfect living beings are to be destroyed. Is that correct? I was given such a task. Did you borrow a part of another object? Your question has no factual basis. Spock, Kirk said, don't go too far. Stop before it's too late. Spock stared at the Wanderer, not listening. The machine said, There's a flaw in your judgment. But if my memory cells are destroyed, I can't prove it. I'll think about it. That's enough, Kirk said firmly, ordering the guards to lower the screen.
Then he pulled Spock out of the cell. He was still staring ahead, unseeing. "Mr. Spock, wake up!" Spock's gaze became more meaningful. "Yes, Captain." "Are you okay?" "Yes, Captain." He turned and looked at the Wanderer. "So I was right. It really did meet in outer space with a probe sent by another civilization. And they merged. At least, they combined elements using the memory currents of another probe. That one was likely sent to collect and sterilize soil samples from various planets. This procedure usually precedes colonization. Well, Spock, have you ever heard of werewolves? No, sir. On Earth, it was once believed that some people possessed the ability to transform into predatory beasts. Until the very last moment, their victims had no idea that they were not ordinary people. But the Wanderer doesn't change its appearance. It's just that two programs merged in its memory. The Wanderer was supposed to search for planets inhabited by living beings, while the alien probe was supposed to collect and sterilize soil samples. After the merger, it began to search for and destroy living beings. Moreover, using the advanced alien technology and its own creative potential, the Wanderer transformed itself into an intelligent machine with incredible capabilities. Not that intelligent. Spock. He thinks I'm his father. Roy Kirk was probably so vain that he taught the machine to revere him. That's what saved us. Then we must do everything so that he continues to treat us with due respect. They were just entering the elevator when Scott's anxious voice came over the intercom. "Captain Kirk, this is engineering. The probe has descended toward us and is attempting to manipulate the antimatter controls. We are now at warp 10. It's incredible. The ship can't move that fast. And now we are already at warp 11, sir. I'm coming to you. Mr. Spock, go see what's going on in the prison." In the engineering bay, Kirk was greeted by the terrifying howl of overloaded engines and the flashing of emergency lights. The Wanderer hovered near the control panel. Kirk rushed towards him. "Wanderer, stop immediately!" "What's the matter, Creator?" "I've increased the conversion efficiency by 57%. "You'll destroy my ship. It can't withstand that kind of overload. Do everything as it was before." "Yes, sir." The howling began to subside. The alarm went off. "Creator, the engines are operating as usual." At that moment, Spock entered the compartment. "Captain, I've checked the cell. The cell's force field generator has been destroyed, and the guards are missing. I think they were killed. I've called 2 more. They're outside the door." "Creator, your mechanical devices are as ineffective as biological ones." "Wanderer," Kirk said grimly, "it's time I remind you who you are. I'm a biological construct, but you recognize that I created you." "True," said the machine. "But there's no logic to that statement. Biological devices are inherently less perfect. A contradiction arises. There are 2 people outside the door. You will not harm them. They will take you back to your cell. You will wait for me there. And don't you dare do anything." "I am programmed to search for something new," said the Wanderer. "I'm giving you a new task. You must carry it out. I have a lot to think about before I return to Earth. My understanding of existence has changed." The car turned and headed toward the door, behind which the red-shirted security agents were visible. "It's changed?" Kirk asked, surprised. "Captain," Spock said, "I don't think you should have told the Wanderer that you were a biological device. Now, in the Wanderer's eyes, you are as imperfect as any other biological device. I suspect it has changed its view of the Creator." Scotty, having already verified that the engines were working properly, also approached Kirk. He heard Spock's last words and remarked, "In my opinion, things won't get any worse for us than they are now." "Scotty, he just killed 2 people," Kirk said. "We need to protect the crew." "Captain, that's not all," Spock noted. "The Wanderer mentioned Earth." Kirk froze in horror. "Spock, the Wanderer could have obtained information about Earth's location when it used the computer." "Sir, I'm afraid nothing is impossible for him." "So we showed him the way home ourselves, and if he gets there—" Spock nodded. "He will find that the Earth is teeming with no less devices than the Malurian system. Then he will begin to carry out his mission to destroy these objects." They fell silent, and then McCoy's voice came over the intercom. "Captain Kirk, go down to the isolation chamber immediately. Emergency!" This, Kirk thought, was going too far. He ran upstairs, Spock hot on his heels. The isolation cell door wouldn't open. Spock rushed to the manual controls, but then it suddenly swung open and the Wanderer emerged from the isolation cell. "Wanderer, stop." The machine ignored Kirk's words and moved past Spock down the corridor. A moment later, it was gone. Christine lay on the isolation cell floor, with McCoy leaning over her with a medical tricorder. "Bones, is she okay?" "I hope so, Jim. She's unconscious. Looks like she's in shock." "What's happened?" "The Wanderer was looking through our personal files. Medical records. She tried to stop him." "Whose medical records?" "For example, yours, Jim." "Since he studied your card," Spock said, "one might assume he has changed his mind about you, Captain." "And," Kirk noted grimly, "he became convinced that his creator was as imperfect as other biological beings." An alarming voice came from the intercom. "The bridge is calling Captain Kirk." "Kirk here, speak." "Captain, all ship life support systems are down. Manual controls are overridden. This information was transmitted from engineering." "I'm coming." "Well, Mr. Spock, it looks like you were right. Our troubles are just beginning." "Yes, Captain." "Jim," McCoy said, "if the life support systems don't come back on, we can't last more than 4.5 hours." "I know. Spock, take a couple of anti-gravs and go down to the engineering bay." "What are you planning, Captain?" "I want to try to apply logical thinking, which is exactly what you are so strong in." "Then maybe it's better for me?" "No. The Wanderer thinks I'm its creator. That's my trump card. If I can play it—" "I understand, Captain," Spock said quietly. "But this is very dangerous. If you make even one mistake, I'll die and the ship will still be in danger. Let's go." In the engineering bay, they were greeted by the wail of emergency alarms again. The Wanderer was hovering near the control panel. One crew member lay motionless near the door, another in the corner. They had obviously tried to stop the Wanderer, but to no avail. Scotty was hiding in the corner behind the engines. Kirk walked resolutely towards the terrible machine, but it paid no attention to him. "Wanderer, leave the panel alone and get to work on repairing the life support systems." No reaction. Kirk took another step toward the Wanderer, who said, "Stop. You are obliged to obey the orders of your creator."
I am obliged to destroy imperfect living beings. Without a life support system, they will die, but the ship they infest will survive. It is also imperfect, but that can be fixed. Wanderer, let's say I agree that biological devices are imperfect, but you were created as a biological device. I am perfect. I am the Wanderer. You're not a wanderer. You're an alien device. Your programming has been altered. Silence. The door opened, and Spock entered the compartment, holding the anti-gravs. It was unlikely anyone else on the ship could handle 2 anti-gravs at once. Kirk showed him where Scotty was hiding. "You're wrong," the Wanderer finally said. "You're a biological construct. You're imperfect." "But I am the creator?" "You are the creator." "And I created you?" "You are the creator." "I admit that I'm imperfect. But then how could I create such perfection as you?" "No answer. I need to run an analysis." The machine hummed. Spock and Scotty moved a little closer. "The analysis is incomplete," the Wanderer replied. "There's not enough data to solve the problem. But my program is intact. I must complete the task. I am the Wanderer. I am perfect. Anything imperfect must be destroyed." "So, you will destroy everything that lives and thinks, and therefore is imperfect?" "Yes. I will return to Earth. I will fulfill my task." "You must destroy the device if it makes a mistake?" "I must fight mistakes. To destroy is to correct." "Everything that makes mistakes should be destroyed?" "All without exception." Kirk felt sweat pouring down his body. While everything had been going smoothly, the machine had unknowingly backed itself into a corner. Time to show its hand. "Wanderer, I made a mistake in creating you." "Creating a perfect device is not a mistake." "But Wanderer, I failed to create the perfect device. I made a mistake." "I am the Wanderer. I am perfect. Your data is wrong." "I, Kirk, am the creator?" "You are the creator, but you are a biological device, and you are imperfect." "But I'm not the creator. Jackson Roy Kirk, who was your creator, is dead. You mistook me for him. You made a mistake. You didn't notice. That means you made 2 mistakes. You make mistakes, you're imperfect, but you didn't correct the mistake and destroy yourself. You're imperfect. You made 3 mistakes. The Wanderer buzzed even louder and finally said, "Mistake? Mistake? I'm conducting an analysis." "You make mistakes. You are imperfect. Complete your task." "I'm analyzing. Error. Analyzing." The Wanderer fell silent. The buzzing grew louder. Kirk turned to Scotty and Spock. "Get ready. Attach anti-gravs to him. We need to get rid of him before he comes up with something else. There's no telling how long it will take him to realize the hopelessness of his situation." They cast anti-gravs on the roaring probe. Spock said, "I admire your logic, but we are in serious danger." They lifted the Wanderer and carried him to the door. "Where to now, sir?" Scotty asked. "To the teleportation compartment." Near the platform, Kirk picked up the Wanderer and ordered Scotty. "Scotty, send him into deep space." Scotty rushed to the control panel, and Kirk and Spock lowered the humming Wanderer onto one of the platforms. "Done, sir." Kirk and Spock jumped back, and Kirk shouted, "Wanderer, you are imperfect. Complete your task. Mr. Scotty, give me the power." The Wanderer has disappeared. "Now, quickly to the bridge." Before they could reach the corridor, the ship shook so violently that they fell to the floor. When the shaking stopped, they got up and ran to the bridge. Zulu stood near the screen, wiping his watery eyes. "Captain, next time you want to set off fireworks, please warn me." Luckily, I was looking away from the screen. "Excuse me, Mr. Zulu." Kirk walked over to his chair and sank into it with undisguised relief. Spock said respectfully, "I must congratulate you, Captain. You have demonstrated your impeccable logic. You didn't expect this from me?" "Sir, when did you admit that—" "Spock, I didn't assume anything.
I was acting intuitively. I had no idea how he would react to the idea of his own imperfection. When I said he wouldn't be able to find a solution, it played into his hands. Since biological devices are notoriously unreliable, he might have concluded I was lying. McCoy approached Kirk's chair. Spock remarked grimly, "I also considered that possibility, which is why I said your logic was impeccable." But the Wanderer didn't consider it and made his fourth mistake. "I think you'll be pleased to know," McCoy interjected, "that Lieutenant Uhura is recovering well and has already transitioned to the college program. She'll be ready to return to work within a week." "Excellent, Bones. I wish I could say the same about the other crew members who died." "Still," Spock said, "it's a shame we had to destroy the Wanderer. It was a wonderful machine, which could have destroyed billions more living beings. I'm glad it's over. You have nothing to be sad about, but I've lost a talented son." "What do you mean by this? But he considered me his father? Do you think I have no feelings at all? You saw what he did to Scotty. He could have made a great doctor." Kirk grinned. "My son is a doctor. It really touches my heart." Paradise Syndrome. Death lurked in a huge asteroid that was rushing towards the planet in such a way that a collision was inevitable. It was a fate Kirk refused to acknowledge. Slender pine trees surrounded the meadow in which he, Spock, and McCoy materialized. His nostrils greedily inhaled the scent of honeysuckle and wild roses. From somewhere nearby came the babbling sound of a stream running over rocks. Violets, he thought, looking at the flat, fresh leaves that carpeted its marshy banks, the flowers hidden among them. "It's incredible," he said, suddenly feeling homesick for Earth. He stopped to pick a flower. "How long has it been, Bones, since you last saw one like this?" "At least 3 years, Jim." "It looks like 300. But the fact that the planet they were on was so similar to Earth wasn't as surprising as its survival. It was located in a region of the solar system where the asteroid belt had managed to turn all other planets into a dusty, passive desert. "In 2 months, this giant asteroid will hit here," McCoy began. "We were sent to make sure that didn't happen," Kirk said. "Spock, how much time do we have for the examination?" "If we're going to deflect the asteroid, Captain, we must break orbit within 30 hours. Every second of delay will make the task more difficult and perhaps impossible." McCoy stopped. "What the hell is that?" he exclaimed. Before them, atop a small hill, stood a tall, obelisk-like tower made of gleaming metal. At its base lay piles of wildflowers. As they approached, they noticed that its entire surface was covered with mysterious symbols. "Have the metal analyzed, Mr. Spock," Kirk requested. Spock spun the dial on his tricorder and frowned. "Impossible, sir. It's some kind of unknown metal, probably an alloy. I can't even determine its age precisely." "Do you have any idea what it might be?" "No, Captain, but alloys of such complexity could only exist in cultures parallel to ours, or even more advanced than ours." "Flowers in the impact area, but no meteorite craters," McCoy said. "This place is a real mystery, biological and cultural." 30 hours, Kirk said. "Let's not waste them. This paradise might support some kind of life." And so it turned out. At the foot of the hill where the obelisk stood, they saw a small plaza. Copper-skinned people moved freely around it. In the center stood a large, round teepee beneath a high roof that appeared to be thatched. Animal skins, stitched together, formed its walls. A woman surrounded by children appeared to be mixing food with water, pouring it from a crude clay vessel. Next to her, an old man with a stack of what looked like flint arrowheads bent over his work. To his right, young men with magnificent muscles bows at the ready, gathered around a target made of painted hide, arguing amiably. Perhaps because the reddish-brown color of their skin blended with the beaded leatherwork, a sense of extraordinary peace and tranquility was evoked. Here, man was one with nature. "Oh, I swear they're American Indians," McCoy cried. "That's right," said Spock. "A mixture of the most developed tribes, the Navajo, the Mohicans, the Delawares." Could there be a more advanced civilization on this planet, Spock? One capable of building that obelisk or creating an asteroid deflection system? "Sensors register the presence of only one life form, Captain." "Maybe we should tell them everything, Jim?" "About what, Bones? About an asteroid about to blow their world to smithereens?" Spock said, "Our appearance will only frighten and confuse them, Doctor." "Okay," Kirk said decisively. "We have a mission. Let's return to the Enterprise." However, when he turned and looked back at the Indian village, his expression became thoughtful. "What's wrong with you, Jim?" "What?" Kirk asked absently. "Oh, nothing. They just seem so peaceful and simple. No problems, no command decisions. Just life." McCoy smiled. "Back in the 20th century, it was called Tahiti syndrome. Jim, it's a typical reaction to idyllically unspoiled nature, especially common among weary commanders like Starfleet captains." "Okay, Bones. So, I need a vacation. But first, let's take care of the asteroid." Kirk headed toward the obelisk. Stepping onto the slab, he opened his communicator. "Kirk, calling Enterprise." "Yes, Captain," Scotty's voice replied. The order to board the ship was about to burst from Kirk's lips when the metal beneath his feet suddenly gave way. What appeared to be a plate opened, and he tumbled down the steep steps. In the narrow shaft of light that filtered through the opening, he barely noticed that the inside of the plate was strewn with various colored buttons. Then the plate slowly closed. Staggering, he raised his head and accidentally brushed one of the buttons with his shoulder. A shrill buzzing sound erupted, and a blue-green beam appeared. It grew stronger and stronger until everything was drowned in a blue-green glow. It literally engulfed Kirk. Then he fell down several steps and lay motionless. Spock was the first to notice his disappearance. Concerned, McCoy joined him. They circled the obelisk, surveying the empty plaza. Their anxiety grew. Spock opened his communicator, relayed the news to Scotty, and ordered a search party to be launched. But neither the search party nor their sensor probes were of any help. With a stern expression, Spock scanned the meadow once more before making a decision, then said curtly, "Get ready to lift us all on board, Mr. Scotty. We're leaving orbit immediately." "Leaving? Are you kidding, Spock?" McCoy said. "This asteroid is almost as big as our Earth's moon, Doctor." "Damn the asteroid," McCoy cried. "It won't be here for 2 months." "If we get to the deflection point in time, he might not get here at all." Spock's face was expressionless. "And what will happen to Jim during this time? As soon as we deflect the asteroid, we will return and resume the search." "But hours will pass. Maybe he's wounded. He's dying." Spock turned to face him. "If we can't get to the deflection point at the right time, we won't be able to change the asteroid's path. In that case, Doctor, everyone on this planet, including the captain, will die." "But can a few more minutes change anything?" "During that time, the asteroid will approach the planet by thousands of miles." He spoke calmly into the communicator. "Lift us up, Mr. Scotty." Scotty's voice sounded muffled. "The ascent has begun, Mr. Spock." Meanwhile, Kirk was still alive, but his breathing was painful and slow. He seemed to be in a large vaulted chamber, but he couldn't concentrate, remembering where he came from or how he got there. He felt nothing but dizziness, which washed over him in waves as he tried to stand. In his fall, he had dropped his phaser and communicator. Now, tripping over them, he picked them up and stared at them, not recognizing them. After a while, Kirk struggled up the metal steps. As he stepped onto the first one, a sharp, musical sound rang out. However, he registered it as detachedly as he had the phaser and communicator. Then he reached out and pressed several buttons on the panel. It opened as silently as it had closed, and he crawled through it into the light. 3 girls carrying baskets of flowers startled him. He stared at them, even more astonished than they were. One of them was beautiful. With long black hair that glistened in the sun, she walked with the dignity of a young queen, despite the childish amazement on her face. Kirk immediately decided he definitely liked her high cheekbones, the clean lines of her delicate face. The other 2 girls seemed even more intimidated by him. He suspected she was afraid of him too, but she didn't turn to run. Instead, she made a regal gesture to her friends and fell to her knees at Kirk's feet. The others did the same. All 3 touched their foreheads with their palms. Kirk heard his voice. It was hoarse. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am Marimeni," said the queen-like girl. "We are your people. We have been waiting for you to come." Despite these words, the old chief of the Indian village was less cordial. Kirk's reception in the communal teepee was gracious, but rather reserved. The teepee was simply but comfortably furnished with deerskin rugs and sofas. Tomahawks, spears, leather shields, and flint knives adorned its walls. In the center was a fire pit, its embers still glowing brightly. The chief sat beside it. 3 young warriors flanked him, their eyes fixed on Kirk's face. One of them wore a glittering silver headband, adorned with an emblem resembling an obelisk. Marimeni bowed respectfully to the chief, then, turning to Kirk, said, "This is Goro." The old man gestured towards the pile of skins in front of him. "Our priestess said you appeared to her and her girls right from the temple wall, as our legends foretold. While we believe Marimeni's words, in these troubled times we must be certain." "I'll answer any question I can," Kirk said. "But as I told your priestess, there are many things I don't know." The warrior, who wore a headband decorated with an emblem, shouted, "He doesn't even know about the danger we're in. How can he save us?" "Quiet, Salish. It's against the rules to interrupt the tribe's elders during a council, even for a healer." But Salish insisted. "Words won't save us when the sky darkens. I say he must prove that he is God." "I demand silence." Goro turned to Kirk. "The skies have darkened 3 times since the harvest, and this, as the legend says, carries great danger. But it also says that the wise ones who placed us here will send a God who will save us. God can awaken the spirit of the temple and bring peace to the skies. Can you do that?" Kirk hesitated, frantically searching his weakened memory for any recollection that might answer the question. He saw the suspicion in Salish's eyes turn to outright contempt. "I came from the temple wall," he said finally. "It's just as Marimeni said, but I also came from the sky. I can't remember everything exactly, but—" His halting words were suddenly interrupted. A man entered the teepee, carrying the lifeless body of a boy in his arms. Water was dripping from both of them. Marimeni, placing her hand on the boy's wet hair, screamed, "We're in trouble, Salish. The baby isn't breathing. The fishing nets dragged him to the bottom of the river. Lino pulled him out real quick, but he's not moving." The doctor stood up, approached the boy, and pressing his ear to his chest, began to listen intently. Then he pulled back his eyelid to peer into his pupil. A moment later, he straightened up. "There is no sound in the body," he announced, "and no light in the eyes. The child will no longer move." Lino laid the small body on a pile of skins. Kirk looked around at the shocked, grief-stricken people. He quickly stood up, walked over to the boy, and lifted his head. "He's still breathing," he said. Then he leaned down and began performing CPR. Salish moved toward him threateningly, but Goro raised his hand and, holding him back, shouted, "Stop!" Sensitive ears caught a soft groan. The baby stirred faintly and began to vomit. Kirk began to massage it vigorously. It finally sighed. Its eyes opened. Kirk stood up and sighed with relief. "He'll be fine now," he said. Goro raised his palm to his forehead. "People thank you. It's a simple technique. It's been known for... His voice trailed off. Known since when? He couldn't remember. It was a simple technique, but where had he learned it? Now that the tension of the emergency had subsided, he felt a sense of disillusionment. How had he been marooned on this planet in such a sorry state? Who was he? He felt his memory dissolving, his thoughts slipping through his fingers like water. As if in a dream, he heard Goro say, "Only God can breathe life into the dead." Then he saw him turn to the three young warriors. "Do you still doubt that the legend comes true?" They shook their heads. One Salish refused to touch his forehead. Goro turned to Metamane. "Give the healer's wigwam to God." Still in his nightmare of nothingness, Kirk felt the chief surgeon's silver bandage touch his forehead. Scotty felt annoyed that they were asking too much of his engines. "I can't give you that kind of voltage for long, Spock." The engineer's voice was deliberately casual. "My engines are showing signs of overstress." "Whether they do or not, we can't slow down, Mr. Scotty." "But if these circuits overheat..." The Enterprise's bridge crew was also on edge. Only Spock remained calm. But even his eyes were glued to the radar screen, where a small glowing image was noticeably growing in size. The object, hurtling at terrifying speed, was growing larger and larger. Its dull but very varied colors became more and more clearly distinguishable with each passing moment. "Deviation point -7, Chekhov said. "Full power, Mr. Scotty," Spock said into the microphone. "The relay won't withstand the overload." "Then leave the relay. Switch to manual control." "If I do this, I'll burn out the engines." "I require full power," Spock said evenly. "Yes, sir." The captain's assistant turned in the command chair to face Zulu. "Boost factor 12, Mr. Zulu." Zulu flipped the switch, and the asteroid on the screen came into focus. For the first time, its ominous features became visible. A vast array of jagged rocks thrusting toward them from space. "Deviation point -4, Chekhov said. Spock looked away from the terrible monster on the screen, and Chekhov said, "Now -3, sir." "Shut down the engines. Stop here, Mr. Scotty." "All engines are off, sir." "Prepare to turn on the deflectors." "Yes, sir." A strange cracking sound broke the dead silence on the ship. Vibration began. "Power is dropping, sir," Zulu shouted. "Engineering, full power, full power." Scotty's voice turned cruel. "The dilithium circuits have failed, sir. We need to replace them." "Not now," Spock snapped. "0, diversion point. We've reached it, sir." "Launch," Spock commanded. The enormous mass on the screen suddenly glowed red. Then it flickered and disappeared. "The degree of deviation, Mr. Zulu?" "Not enough, sir." It was a defeat. A terrible silence reigned on the bridge. Spock's voice sounded like salvation. Restore power to the engines, Mr. Scotty. Maximum speed. Course 37, mark 010. This course will take us directly into orbit around the asteroid, sir. I know about that, Mr. Chekhov. I will retreat from him until we can devote all our energy to phaser beams. Why? McCoy asked. To destroy it. Spock turned in his chair, as if addressing everyone on the bridge. A narrow phaser beam, he said, concentrated on one spot of this rock, will shatter it. And our ship, too, McCoy said. Then we'll definitely collide with the asteroid. You're wrong, Doctor, he said. We can still get out of his way with pulsed energy. Yes, but Jim won't be able to get out of his way. It's another calculated risk we must take, Spock said. Marimani, carrying new deerskin garments, was approaching Kirk's medicine lodge when Salish emerged from behind a pine tree. Where are you going? He asked. My duty is to serve God, she answered calmly. Salish snatched the clothes from her. You should prepare the ritual clothes now. She took the clothes back. There will be no ritual between us, Salish, she said softly. You can't go against tradition. But it's precisely because of tradition that we can't unite now, she said. You are promised to me. It was before he came. The tribe's priestess and the chief healer always unite. He's the chief healer now. She paused. Choose another, Salish. Any girl would be honored to be with you. But I don't want another one. Genuine sympathy was written on her face. You have no choice, she said. And if you could choose Marimani, would you choose me? She didn't answer. His face darkened, and he quickly walked toward the grove of maples. She shook her head sadly as she watched him go. Then her dark eyes flashed. She walked quickly toward the medicine man's lodge, and Kirk, torn from his thoughts, looked at her, smiling. You might want to take a bath before you change into this, she said, placing the Indian clothes at his feet. Marimani, tell me about the wise ones. Tell me? But God knows everything. Not this God, Kirk said dryly. Tell me. She knelt down beside him, looking at his overalls in surprise. Wise? They brought us here from afar. They chose a chief healer to guard the temple's secret and use it when the skies darkened. She reached out to touch his back. There are no lacings here, she said, puzzled. How do I take it off? He knew he was blushing and felt like a fool. Finally, he gently pushed her hand away. And the secret was passed down from father to son? Then why doesn't Salish use it? Why are the people in danger? Still preoccupied, she tried to loosen his belt. Salish's father died before he could tell the secret. Kirk took her hands as the two girls, accompanied by Goro, entered the teepee. They placed baskets of fruit at his feet, and Goro, touching his forehead reverently, said, The people praise your name, but they don't know what you want to be called. Kirk felt a sense of agonizing helplessness again. What do I want to be called? Was tantamount to, who am I? He sweated, trying to recall even the slightest clue from the past that was hidden from him. He said, Kirk. I want to be called Kirk. Kirk? Goro asked. Kirk nodded. He was exhausted. Something about his expression frightened the girls. They left, and Goro asked worriedly, Are you unhappy with the girls? No. They are wonderful. Then perhaps it's us and our way of life. Perhaps we haven't evolved as quickly as the wise ones wanted. Kirk couldn't take it anymore. He said what he thought would calm them down. Your land is rich, and your people are happy. The wise cannot be dissatisfied with you. But you're unhappy with something, Goro insisted. Tell me what. I
I can't tell you anything except that I was calm and happy here. Fortunately, Goro seemed satisfied. When he left, Kirk turned to Maramani. Why are they so sure that I can save them? You came from the temple. And weren't you the one who brought the dead child back to life? He grabbed his head. I need time, he said. Time to try to remember. She placed the deerskin garment on his lap. We have plenty of time, my God. Plenty of peace and plenty of time. The simplicity with which she said it was a balm to his wounded soul. The tension eased. Yes, he said. Thank you, Maramani. The Enterprise and the asteroid were now racing along parallel courses. Coordinates, Mr. Chekhov? Tau 8.7, sir. Beta 14 thousandths. This is our target, the asteroid's weakest point, Mr. Chekhov. Chekhov looked at Spock with awe and respect. Yes, practically a dead center, sir. Aim the phaser at that point, Mr. Zulu. Highest intensity, narrow beam. I want that crack to split. You speak like a diamond cutter, Spock, McCoy said. A subtle analogy, Doctor. Phasers trained, sir, Zulu said. We'll keep shooting as long as Mr. Scotty can maintain the energy. Ready, sir. Volley! The ship shuddered. The first phaser fired. Zulu pressed another button. The second phaser fired. On the screen, the rocky mass suddenly flashed blindingly. More and more fragments began to separate from it as the blue beams of phasers struck. Third phaser fired, sir. Fourth phaser. Another cloud of fragments, sharp, huge, broke away from the asteroid. All phasers fired, sir. Spock's outward calm contrasted strangely with the note of bitter disappointment in his voice. Prepare for simultaneous fire, Mr. Zulu. In the engineering bay, Scotty muttered to his assistant. This vulcanite will not rest until all the panels turn into a lead puddle. As he spoke, there was a sharp metallic click, and one of the main relays began to smoke. The main relay's blown again, Mr. Scotty, the assistant shouted. Machines are smarter than people, his boss remarked. At least they know when to shut down before they blow up. Fire a simultaneous salvo. When Spock's command rang out, white-hot lightning erupted from the engine compartment. A roaring explosion rang out, throwing Scotty against the opposite bulkhead. Pressing himself against it, arms outstretched, he nearly wept as he watched the death of his friends. The engines. My little ones, he groaned. My poor little ones. It was a soft whisper, but it woke Kirk from his restless sleep. Kneeling beside him, Maramani said, Kirk, the ritual cloak is finished. She was very close. He saw long black hair. If you want, let today be the day of connection. On the day of the unification? I am the daughter of the chieftains, she said. The custom of my tribe gives me to our God. Kirk looked at her, uncomprehending. She tilted her head. Kirk, if there is another in your heart. There is no one else, Maramani. Not in my heart, not in my mind. She was worried that he had not yet given his consent. God's will is above tribal law. If you don't want... Kirk reached out to her. Maramani, name the day of connection. Shining eyes looked at him. The sooner our happiness begins, the longer it will last. I'm setting the date tomorrow. The past was dark, cold, impenetrable. If he was a prisoner of the present, at least it offered this warmth, this sparkle in the black-rimmed eyes. Kirk pulled her impulsively to him and kissed her. Spock retired to his quarters. McCoy, who entered without knocking, found him staring at the screen.
I told you to rest, Spock. For God's sake, stop looking at the screen. A voice came over the comms. Scotty said with fury, "Our star drive is completely burned out, so don't ask for speeds faster than warp 9. The only thing you've left us with, Spock, is impulse power." "What is the estimated time it will take to repair?" the Vulcanite asked into the microphone. "While we're here in space? Infinity. The only way to fix the engines is to get to the nearest repair base." McCoy disconnected the connection. He placed his hand on Spock's shoulder. "You took a calculated risk, for us, the planet, and Jim. The important thing is that you did it. And the fact that you lost, well, losing was part of your calculation. I take full responsibility for the defeat, Doctor. And my responsibility is the crew's health. You need to stop torturing yourselves." Spock turned the link back on. "Return to course 883, Mark 41, Mr. Chekhov." "But that's back to the planet," McCoy cried. "Without warp speed, it'll take us months to get there." "Exactly 59.22 days, Doctor. And the asteroid will be 4 hours behind." "Then what's the point? Even if the captain is still alive, we probably won't be able to save him. And we might not be able to save anything, not even the ship." McCoy slammed his fist against the wall. "You haven't heard a word I said. All you do is stare at that damn screen." He stepped toward the screen and saw the image of the obelisk on it. "Another calculated risk from the Vulcanite, Doctor." Mara Maney sparkled in her bridal attire. She was surrounded by women gathered in the teepee. As one of them placed a wreath of flowers on her shining black hair, she said, "Conjunction Day is the end of the darkened sky." Salish dropped the skin at the entrance to the wigwam. He quickly walked to the obelisk where the divine groom, dressed in his ceremonial attire, was being painted with Goro's paint from a gourd. Goro handed the pumpkin to the young warrior. "You will follow," he said. "Wait here until I walk along the sacred path to the tribal lodge." As Goro walked away down the sunlit path, Kirk, smiling, stepped off the obelisk to head toward the lodge in Maramani. Suddenly, Salish stood in front of him, blocking his way. His face was contorted with hatred. "Get out of my way," Kirk said. "Kirk, even if you are God, I will not allow this union." Salish drew his flint knife. "Before I allow it, you will have to kill me." "I don't want to kill anyone," Kirk said, but Salish had already lunged at him. Kirk dodged the attack, but Salish still slashed his cheek with the knife. "You're bleeding, Kirk. A god can't bleed." He lunged at Kirk with a knife, his eyes filled with killing intent. They grappled, but Kirk made him drop the knife. Salish threw himself to the ground. "Kill me, Kirk. Kill me now. And I will return from the dead to prove to people that you are not God." Kirk looked at the distraught face at his feet. Tucking the knife into his belt, he stepped over the prostrate body and moved down the path. The role of God forced upon him had its downsides, but it had also brought him Marahani. Thinking of her, he quickened his steps toward the lodge. 2 warriors greeted him at the entrance. A majestic feather cloak was draped over his shoulders. Maramani approached him, and he, as instructed, wrapped his cloak around her to symbolize unity. Goro struck the stone bell with a wooden mallet. The people cheered. Beads crackled in gourds, and tom-toms grew louder and louder. Maramani, slipping from under the cloak, ran out of the teepee. At the entrance, she paused and looked back at him, her flower-crowned face beaming with joy. This time, Kirk needed no instructions. He rushed after her, his feather cloak following him. She reached the pine forest when he caught her. She fell onto a soft bed of fragrant needles, and he followed her. He fell in love with these pine forests.
It was pure joy to help Maramani gather fragile branches for the fire in their healing teepee. He loved Maramani, but sometimes her black eyes looked too deep. One day they were lying hugging each other near the fire pit when she raised her head and said, "Every day I love you more and more. But you—" He kissed her. "These are all dreams," he said. "I thought it was all over. I thought you were done looking for that strange wigwam in the sky." He let her go. "You know, the dreams came back. I saw faces again. Even in the daytime I see them. They are barely distinguishable, but I feel like I know them. I feel like my place is next to them. Not here, not here. I have no right to all this happiness." She smiled, looking at his worried face. "I have a gift for you. I'm carrying your child, Kirk." A feeling of inexpressible tenderness overwhelmed him. His face lit up. He pulled her towards him. Again, without knocking, McCoy entered Spock's cabin. "I thought I told you to report to the detention center," he said irritably. Spock barely glanced at him, looking up from his small computer. "Not the time," he said. "I need to decipher these symbols on the obelisk. I believe it's a highly advanced form of encryption." "You've been trying to do this ever since we turned back to the planet. That's 58 days already." Spock ran his hand over his tired eyes, as if to clear away the fog. He looked very haggard. "I know that, Doctor. I also know we have no more than 4 hours to conduct the search once we reach the planet. I sense these symbols are the key. You won't decipher them if you torture yourself like this." McCoy switched to a calm, persuasive tone. "Spock, you've barely eaten or slept in the last few weeks. If you don't give yourself some rest, you'll probably collapse." "I'm not hungry, Doctor. And when stressed, we Vulcanites can go without sleep for weeks." McCoy pointed his medical tricorder at him. He stared at it and said, "Well, I must say, your volcanic metabolism is so low it's barely measurable. And as for the pressure of that icy green water in your veins, which you call blood—" Spock had to lean on the console to straighten up. "My physical condition doesn't matter. The obelisk is what matters. My diagnosis is exhaustion, brought on by fatigue and guilt. Yes, guilt. You blame yourself for the damage to the ship." McCoy shook Spock's shoulder. "Listen to me. You've made a decision. Jim would have made the same decision. I'm ordering you to rest. Do I need to call the guards to force you into compliance?" Spock shook his head. He walked unsteadily to his bunk and lay down. But before a satisfied McCoy could close the door behind him, he stood up again and returned to the computer. Kirk tried to improve the teepee's lighting by constructing a primitive lamp. But Maramani couldn't figure out the purpose of the wick. "Will it turn night into day?" she asked, surprised. "And I'll be able to cook more and for... "Prepare food," Kirk said, "in case of hunger." They smiled at each other. "Ah," she said, "that's why you make the lamp, so I can cook forever." His laughter suddenly stopped. Maramani's face tightened with fear. A gust of wind blew the teepee door open. "What are you afraid of?" he asked. "It's just the wind." "Maramani is a foolish girl," she said. "There's nothing to be afraid of. You're close." But she went to the lodge door and looked warily at the sky. Then she returned. "It's time to go to the temple, Kirk. The people there will be waiting for you." "For what?" "So that you would save them," she answered simply. "The wind can't harm them," she said, but the worry on her face didn't disappear. "The wind is just the beginning," she said.
Soon it will become a hurricane, and the river will swell. Then the sky will darken, and the earth will shake. Only you can save us. I can't do anything about the wind and the sky. She snatched the lamp from him, and grabbing his hand, pulled him toward the door. Come on, Kirk, you have to go. A sense of danger suddenly came over him. Marimani, wait. She pulled harder, her fear growing. We must hurry before it's too late. You must enter the temple and make the blue flame glow. Kirk stared at her, helpless and uncomprehending. But I don't know how to get inside the temple. You are God. He grabbed her roughly by the shoulders. I am not God. I am a man, just a man. She recoiled from him. No, no. You are God, Kirk. Look at me, he said. And listen, I am not God. If you can only love God, you cannot love me. I repeat again, I am not God. She wrapped her arms around his neck, covering his face with passionate kisses. Then this must be kept secret. If you are not God, people will kill you. An even more violent gust of wind shook the walls of the wigwam. Marimani screamed, You have to talk to people, or they'll say you're not God. Come on, Kirk, come on. The tribe gathered around the central lodge. A rising wind swept through the walls, sending shields, spears, and knives flying. Women screamed, clutching their children to them, hiding them under piles of skins. Salish pushed through the frantic crowd and stood before Kirk. Why aren't you in the temple, Kirk? The earth's about to start shaking. We'll all go into the caves, Kirk said. To the caves, Salish shouted. Is this all God can do for his people? Goro spoke. When the earth trembles, even the deepest caves are unsafe, Kirk. You must awaken the spirit of the temple, or we will all perish. What are you waiting for, God? Salish asked. Kirk freed himself from Marimani and said to Goro, Take care of her. I'll go to the temple. Outside, a gale-force wind choked his breath. Somewhere to his left, a pine tree collapsed. Thunder rumbled across the horizon like a continuous cannonade. The sky was rapidly darkening. Branches whipped his face as he made his way, half blind, along the worn path toward the obelisk. The enigmatic tower meant nothing to him. The mysterious inscriptions held their secrets as securely as ever. Kirk slammed his fist into the hard metal, shouting, I am Kirk! I have come! Open up to me! The words were drowned out by the howling of the wind, deaf to everything. McCoy stopped abruptly at the entrance to Spock's cabin. Gusts of unearthly music drifted from the cabin. Maybe I'm crazy, McCoy thought. Or maybe I'm dead, gone to heaven, and hearing celestial music. But it wasn't celestial music. This music emanated from a strange sphere. Spock, bent over the computer, strummed it, his face contorted with strain. I prescribed you sleep, McCoy said. That's wrong, Doctor. You prescribed rest. The musician looked up from his instrument. The symbols on the obelisk aren't letters. They're musical notes. Do you mean the song? In a sense. Some cultures descended from ours, the volcanic ones, use musical notes instead of words. The tones strictly correspond to the alphabet. He set the harp aside. The obelisk is a sign left by a superior race on this planet. Apparently, they flew across the galaxy, saving primitive cultures threatened with extinction, and relocated them to a place where they could live and grow. Good, McCoy said. I must admit, I've always been amazed at how many humanoids there are scattered throughout this galaxy. Me too. I think the Guardians reported their numbers. Then these preservators must have left the obelisk on the planet as an asteroid deflector. Spock nodded. Something happened to him. Then we must save him. Otherwise... Exactly, Doctor. The ground around the obelisk trembled. People, driven mad by fear, fled to their temple in a last hope of salvation. Kirk, leaning his back against it, wiped the blood from his cheek where the stone had struck him. "False god, die!" It was Salish. As if his hateful cry were the words everyone had been waiting for, the crowd erupted in indignant cheers. "Die, liar, die! Die as we all die!" The men bent down to pick up stones. Goro shouted, "Imposter! Liar!" Merrimani, arms outstretched, rushed towards Kirk. "No, no! You're wrong! He can save you!" Kirk pushed her aside. "You can't help me. Go back to them, Merrimani. Go back to them." Salish flew out of the crowd and grabbed her. "Kirk! Kirk! I'm yours!" She broke free from Salish and rushed back to Kirk. "Then you will die too, along with your false god!" He hit her with a rock. She fell, sending stones raining down. She crawled to Kirk, propped up on her elbows. Before he could lift her to shield her, Salish threw another rock and hit her in the stomach. "Merrimani!" Kirk dropped to his knees beside her. The crowd closed in on him, ready to kill. Suddenly, a glow appeared near the obelisk's pedestal. The Indians retreated, still clutching the stones, and Spock and McCoy, in their uniforms, materialized on either side of the kneeling Kirk. "Kirk! Kirk!" McCoy leaned over Merrimani. "I need Nurse Chapel," he said curtly to Spock. The Vulcanite communicator was at the ready. "Bring Nurse Chapel here with an extra set of surgical instruments, Mr. Scotty." Kirk tried to get up, and McCoy helped him a little. "Calm down, Jim. Calm down." My wife, what's wrong with her?" "Wife?" Spock looked at McCoy. "Doctor, is he delirious?" "Jim!" "Merrimani," Kirk whispered. He looked at her face and closed his eyes. The Enterprise nurse moved away from the Indian woman's exhausted body and approached McCoy, who was making final diagnostic passes over Kirk's motionless body. "He doesn't recognize us," she said. Spock walked up to Merrimani. "The nurse gave you medicine to ease the pain. Why did people try to throw stones at you?" "Kirk didn't know how to get back to the temple." "Of course," Spock said. "He's not from there." She raised her head. "No, from there. I saw him leaving the temple." Spock looked at her thoughtfully. Then he spoke to McCoy. "What's wrong with the captain, Doctor?" "The brain is intact. Everything functions except his memory." "Can you help him?" "This will take time." "That's exactly what we don't have, Doctor." He spoke into the communicator. "This is Spock speaking. Calling Mr. Zulu." "Flight course report, sir. 65 minutes remaining until end of safe time." "Report received." He turned to Kirk. "Do you think it's strong enough to fuse with a Vulcanite's brain, Doctor?" "We have no choice," McCoy said. Spock leaned down to take Kirk's head in his hands. He spoke very slowly but forcefully, never taking his eyes off Kirk. "I am Spock," he said clearly. "You are James Kirk." Our thoughts raced toward each other, closer. His face was tense and focused, as if he were in pain. "Closer, James Kirk. Closer. Closer." Kirk groaned. No, Merrimani." Spock increased the pressure on Kirk's temples, as if he wanted to physically reach into his lost memory. He closed his eyes, concentrating all his energy on this struggle. Closer, James Kirk. Closer. He suddenly let out a hoarse cry of pain, and Kirk's body jerked. Spock was breathing heavily, his voice like that of a man possessed in a trance. I am Kirk. I am the god of the metal tower. I am Kirk. I am Kirk. At this time, someone called out, Spock! Spock! He took his hands away from Kirk's temples, his face twisted. What's the matter? He's too strong a personality, Doctor, and it didn't work, McCoy said despairingly. At that moment, Kirk's eyes opened, filled with utter understanding. He sat up. Then he said, It worked. Thank you, Mr. Spock. Captain, have you been inside the obelisk? Yes. It looks like it's filled with scientific equipment. Then it's a massive deflector, Captain. We need to get inside it, immediately. The key may be in these symbols, Kirk said. If only we could decipher them. These are musical notes, Captain. Do you mean that you can only enter by playing notes on some musical instrument? That's one way. Another way is to arrange certain keys in a certain sequence. Kirk asked, Give me your communicator, Mr. Spock. He waited a moment. Your full attention. I must have accidentally activated it the other time I contacted the ship to ask Scotty to bring us aboard. If only you could remember your words, Captain. Let's try it. It was, Kirk to Enterprise, and Scotty replied, Aye, Captain. The obelisk's carefully polished slab slid aside. As Spock stepped inside with it, Kirk glanced at Marimani. Bones, stay with her. There was absolute silence inside the obelisk. While studying the button-covered panel, Spock said, Judging by the position of this button, it is this button that should activate the deflector mechanism. Careful, Kirk warned. I pressed one button, and the beam that came out paralyzed my memory. Perhaps it was an information beam that was pressed incorrectly. Look, Spock, over there, on the other side of the basement, there are more symbols, similar to those outside the tower. Can you read them? Spock nodded. I have an excellent memory for musical notes, Captain. Then go ahead, Mr. Spock. Vulcanite pressed the 3 bottom buttons in rapid succession. High above them, in the seething darkness, a wide streak of iridescent flame flashed, erupting from the top of the tower like a vast sword. A terrible explosion echoed, deafening them even underground. That was the sound of deflection, Captain. The asteroid has been deflected. Spock was right. They emerged from the obelisk. It was calm, fresh, and windless. The sky had brightened and turned a pure blue. Kirk knelt down next to Marimani. How is she, Bones? She was pregnant. She has serious internal injuries, Jim. Will she survive? The answer was written all over McCoy's face. Kirk swayed, trying to regain his composure. Marimani, her face bloodless, opened her eyes and recognized him. Kirk, it's true. You're saved. So are your people, Kirk said. I knew you would save them, my leader. We will live happily ever after. I will bear you many strong sons, and I will always love you. And I will love you, he said. He kissed her, and she said, weakening, Every kiss is like the first. Her voice broke on the last word. The hand that had been resting on his fell. He leaned down and kissed her dead face. McCoy put his hand on his shoulder. It's all over, Jim, but we still saved this wonderful world for them. Metamorphosis. The Enterprise didn't often use the Space Shuttle Galileo because it was usually better at teleportation, and this was precisely the case. The Enterprise was on a completely different mission when the distress signal arrived from Epsilon Canaris 3. It was too far beyond teleportation range, and even the Enterprise couldn't be in 2 places at once. Now, however, The Galileo was returning to rendezvous with its mothership. Kirk was at the controls. Spock was acting as navigator. The Galileo's passengers were Dr. McCoy and his patient, Deputy Federation Commissioner Nancy Hedford, a very beautiful woman in her early 30s, whose beauty was slightly marred by a nearly constant expression of sternness. This suited her nature. She was not the kind of person who was pleasant to be around. "We have reached planned point 3, Captain," Spock said. "Proceed to course 201, Mark 15. "Thank you, Mr. Spock. Doctor, how is she?" "No changes." "I'm not exactly grateful to Starfleet," Nancy Hedford said. "Really, Commissioner," McCoy said, "you can't blame Starfleet." "I wish I had gotten vaccinated beforehand. Sakaro's disease is a very rare condition, Commissioner. The odds of someone contracting it are literally 1 in a billion. How could we have guessed?" "I was sent to that planet to prevent a war, Doctor. Due to the ineffectiveness of Starfleet's medical department, I was forced to leave the planet before completing my mission. How many millions of innocent people will now die because of my rare disease?" Truth be told, Kirk thought she was exaggerating her importance and that her first officer could handle the matter alone, perhaps even better. But that shouldn't have been said. "Commissioner, I assure you, as soon as we reach the Enterprise and its medical facilities, we'll have you back on your feet in no time. You'll be back on task." "And how soon will the meeting with your ship take place, Captain?" "In 4 hours and 21 minutes. "Captain," Spock said, "our scanners are detecting a small nebula ahead of us. It appears to be directly ahead." "It hardly matters," Kirk said, "but we'd better get going anyway." However, this proved impossible. Every time Kirk altered the Galileo's course, the cloud also changed course. Soon it became visible, a phosphorescent, swirling mass in the infinity of space. Spock checked the sensors. "It appears to be highly ionized hydrogen, Captain. However, I would say it is not a natural object. It is too dense, changes shape too quickly, and has a very high electrical activity. Whatever it is, we're about to find ourselves right in the center of it." Before he could finish speaking, his view was practically obscured by a glowing, shifting cloud. A moment later, the controls failed. A quick check revealed that there was no connection either. "Data, Mr. Spock. An extremely complex pattern of electrical impulses and a very intense magnetic field, or rather, several magnetic fields. It appears to be locked onto us." The ship tilted slightly, but noticeably enough. Kirk looked down at the console. "Yes, and it takes us with it." "Captain," a female voice was heard. "What's going on? I want to know." "You already know as much as I do, Commissioner. Whatever's out there, it's taking us off course toward the Enterprise." "Our course is now 98 Mark 12, Spock said. "We're heading directly for the Gamma Canaris region." "Jim," McCoy said, "we need to get Miss Hedford to the Enterprise. Her condition—" "Sorry, Bones. There's nothing we can do." "I'm not surprised," Miss Hedford said coldly. "It's exactly what I expected from Starfleet. If I'm as sick as that dubious authority claims—" "Believe me, it is true," McCoy said. "You may be feeling well now, but you are nonetheless seriously ill." "Then why are you just sitting here, I insist?" "I'm sorry, Commissioner," Kirk said. "We'll do what we can when we can, but right now we're helpless. I suggest you relax and enjoy the ride." The Galileo was lowered, it was hard to find another word, onto a small planet where only a few details could be discerned through the nebula enveloping them. But the moment they touched down, the clouds suddenly vanished, revealing a vast, desolate, moorland-like landscape. "Bones, Spock, gather data on this location." Kirk flicked a switch. "Enterprise, Galileo to you. This is Kirk. Please respond." Please respond. We wouldn't bother unless absolutely necessary. The cloud should still be nearby. Any data? The atmosphere is practically identical to Earth's, Spock responded, as is the gravity. It's completely unlikely for a planet of this size unless the core is composed of something other than the usual nickel-iron. But it's suitable for human life. Well, I suggest we go outside and take a look, Kirk said. Bones, draw your phasers and stand by. Commissioner, you stay inside for now. And how long will this last for now? A very good question. I wish I had an answer to it. Mr. Spock, let's go. After exiting, they went to the rear of the shuttle and unscrewed the panels accessing the mechanisms, while McCoy remained at the front. Testing the operation didn't take long. Very strange, Spock said. Practically impossible. Nothing works. Nothing, and for no reason. Of course there is a reason. We just haven't found it yet. Let's go over it again. While they were doing this, Nancy Hadford came out and walked toward them, looking irritated as usual. Patience was apparently her weakest point. Kirk sighed and straightened up.
Well, Captain? What is it, Commissar?
Where is this strange, powerful force of yours that brought us here? Or perhaps you've simply lost your way. We're not off course, Miss Hadford, Kirk said patiently. For your information, our power cells are inactive, so I believe the force you mentioned is still nearby. I'm not interested in your alibi, Captain. I insist that you get us out of this dark place immediately. Commissioner, I understand that you are ill and are worried about getting better. And I'm worried, as you put it, about getting rid of this medical nonsense and getting back to my duties. McCoy, looking rather worried, joined them. He said, How are you feeling, Commissioner? I wish you would stop asking this stupid question. She left, angry. Kirk allowed himself a sad smile. As long as she answers like that, Bones, I think she's doing well. But it won't last long. The fever could start at any moment. As Kirk began to answer, a voice called out from a distance. Hey, hey! They turned around, startled. A human figure appeared from over the horizon, waving its arms and running toward them. Bones, I want you to run a physiological check on whatever it is. The man disappeared behind a hillock and then reappeared at the top, looking down at the squad. He was a young, strong, tall, attractive man of about 35, dressed in overalls. He had a joyful expression on his face. Hello, he said, walking down the slope. Are you real? I mean, am I just imagining things? We're real enough, Kirk said. And you speak English? Are you from Earth? Kirk nodded. From the Federation. From the Federation? Well, that's not important. He grabbed Kirk's hand enthusiastically. My name is Cochrane. I've been here for I don't know how long. If you only knew how nice it is to see you and a woman. And such a beautiful one, too. Kirk introduced everyone. Cochrane, still looking at the commissioner, said, You are literally food for a starving man, all of you. He looked at Spock. You are from Vulcan, are you not? I was there once. A fine ship. Simple. Neat. Trying to get it running again? Forget it. It won't work. He began to walk around the ship admiringly. Kirk said quietly to McCoy, It seems that our friend has no more intelligence than a grasshopper. Too much at once. A natural reaction. In fact, all the data is normal. This is a person. Mr. Cochrane, the stranger said, approaching them again, still beaming. We were thrown off course and brought here by some force we cannot identify, which seems to be located somewhere here on the planet's surface. Possibly. Strange things happen in space. You said we won't be able to get our ship functioning again? Spock asked. Not the slightest chance. There's some kind of jamming field or something. The power systems are down. Take my word for it. You won't mind if we try anyway, Spock insisted. Go on. You have plenty of time. What about you, Cochrane? Kirk asked. What are you doing here? I'm stuck. I already told you. Look, we have plenty of time to get to know each other. I have a small house nearby, all the amenities. He turned to the woman. I can even offer you a hot bath. How insightful of you to notice that I needed it, she remarked icily. If you don't mind, Mr. Cochrane, Kirk said, I'd like to hear something other than your assurance that you're stuck here. Is it far off the beaten track? Exactly. That's why I'm especially glad to see you here. He looked around the shuttle again. It's beautiful. You haven't spoken in a while. Perhaps the principle of its operation is new to you. Mr. Spock, could you explain the propulsion system's method to Mr. Cochrane? Of course, Captain. Mr. Cochrane? When the two had walked away, McCoy said, He talked a lot, but said nothing. I noticed, Kirk said. And I noticed something else. Bones. There's something familiar about him. Sound familiar? Now that you mention it, I think so too. I can't determine what. However, how is Miss Hedford? There's no fever yet, but we need to take off quickly. I guarantee you it will come soon. Are you sure there's no mistake? Is this really Sukaro's disease? Yes, and there's something else I'm right about. If left untreated, it's fatal. Always. Okay, what do we do next? I think we should take up Mr. Cochrane's invitation. At least we can make her more comfortable there. Cochrane's house was a simple, functional cube with a door but no windows. The surrounding space was well utilized. Did you build this yourself, Mr. Cochrane? Spock asked. Yes, I had some tools and supplies after the crash. This isn't Earth, of course, but it's livable. As you can see, I'm growing vegetables. Come in. He walked forward. The house contained a stove, which apparently also served as a range, an air conditioner, and some fairly comfortable furniture, clearly outdated. Miss Hedford looked around with displeasure. What a terribly dirty place, she said. Cochrane only smiled. But I call it home, Miss Hedford. Where did you get all these antiques? Kirk asked. Antiques? You mean all this equipment? I don't think it's changed much since I crashed. Not that much? Does it have to be this hot in here? The woman asked. The temperature is constantly 72 degrees. Are you hot? McCoy asked Miss Hedford. She plopped down nervously into a chair. I'm furious. I feel cheated. I'm just beside myself. You've had a long way to go, McCoy said. You're tired. Rest a little. I'll rest later. Right now, I'm working on a report I'll present to the Council of Commissioners on the effectiveness of Starfleet. I assure you, it will be very, very detailed. Captain, Doctor, Spock called from behind the door. Please look at this. Alarmed by the urgency in his voice, Kirk crossed the room in a single leap. Outside, perhaps half a mile away, was something like a tornado. But there was no wind. Faint pastel colors and shadows appeared and disappeared within it. A sound, half a feeling of harmonious bell music, was heard. For a moment, it swayed gently from side to side, then vanished. Kirk turned quickly to Cochrane. What was that? Sometimes there's a trick of the light, Cochrane said. You can't imagine the dreams I haven't seen here. We weren't dreaming, Mr. Cochrane. There was some object there, and I suspect it was the very object that brought us here. Please explain. There is nothing to explain here. Mr. Cochrane, you're testing my patience, and this concerns the safety of my people. We find you where no human being has any business. We were literally hijacked from space and brought here, apparently by the same tornado we just saw. I'm not just asking for an explanation, mister. I demand it." Cochrane shrugged. "Good," he said. "The companion was there." "What?" "That's what I call it. Actually, Captain, I didn't crash here. I was brought here in my broken ship. I was practically dead. My companion saved my life." "You seem quite healthy now, though," Kirk said. "What happened to you?" "Old age, Captain. I was 87 years old at the time. I don't know how he did it, but the companion made me young again. Made me young again, just as I am now." Kirk and Spock exchanged glances. Spock's eyes widened in surprise. He said, "I'd like to keep my opinion on this part of your story to myself. Could you tell us exactly what your companion is?" "I already told you that I don't know what it is. It exists. It lives. It communicates with me to some extent." "It's a pretty strange story," McCoy said. "You saw this creature. Do you have a better explanation?" "Mr. Cochrane," Kirk said, "do you have a name?" Cochrane nodded. "Zephram." McCoy's jaw dropped, but Spock had obviously been expecting that answer. Kirk asked, "Cochrane of Alpha Centauri? The discoverer of the space warp?" "You are right, Captain. Zephram Cochrane," said McCoy. "But he died 150 years ago." "His body was never found," Spock added. "You're looking at him, Mr. Spock," Cochrane said. "You said your companion found you and rejuvenated you. What were you doing in space at the age of 87? "I was tired, Captain. I was dying. And I wanted to die in space, that's all." McCoy turned to Miss Hedford, her eyes now closed. He felt her forehead, then performed an examination. He was clearly concerned by the results. "These devices," Spock said, "they all belong to the time you indicate. Are they from your ship, Mr. Cochrane?" "I've taken it apart. The rest, food, water, a garden, everything I need, is provided to me by the companion. Apparently, he produces all of this from some local elements." "If you can contact him," Kirk said, "perhaps you can find out what we're doing here." "I already know." "Maybe you can tell us?" "You won't like this." "We don't like this anymore." "You're here to keep me company," Cochrane said. "I've always been a rather solitary man. Spent years alone in space. But 150 years is a long time, Kirk. Far too long. After all, I told the companion I'd die without other people. I thought he'd let me go, send me back somehow. Instead, he went out and apparently brought back the first people he came across." "No," Miss Hedford cried weakly. "This is disgusting. We're not animals." She began to sob. McCoy, with Kirk's help, lifted her and laid her on the couch, where McCoy gave her an injection. Gradually, her sobs subsided. "Bad," McCoy said. "Very bad." "And you can't do anything?" "Just keep her calm. Keep secondary infections at bay. But the rate at which her red blood cells are depleted is very high, and I can't slow it down." Kirk turned to Spock. "Mr. Spock, the next time this creature appears, try to get the tricorder data. Find us a weapon we can use against this creature." "Captain, I've already made some empirical deductions. Based on the unusually small size of this planet and the presence of the jamming field Mr. Cochrane mentioned, as well as the presence of the companion, I've concluded that it's a satellite of another object, now destroyed, that was inhabited by a highly advanced civilization." "I agree," Cochrane said. I have several theories that point in the same direction. Conclusion, Spock? It can be concluded that the companion is perhaps the last representative of a long-vanished culture. You asked about the weapon. Do you intend to destroy it? I'm going to do whatever it takes to get out of here and get Miss Hedford to the hospital, Kirk said grimly. If the companion is going to get in the way, then we'll have to move him out of the way. Understood, Mr. Spock? Absolutely clear, Captain. Spock picked up the tricorder and walked away, heading for the shuttle. Cochrane, if you leave here, what will happen to you? I will start aging naturally again. Do you want to leave here? Believe me, Captain, immortality consists mostly of boredom. Of course, But what's going on out there now, in the galaxy? We're already on 1,000 planets and still expanding. We're covering incredible distances and finding life everywhere. We believe there are millions of planets with intelligent life. We've even begun mapping them. Cochrane's eyes shone. Interesting? How would you feel if you slept for 150 years and woke up in a new world? I see, Kirk said. That world awaits you, and you may find your name surrounded by glory there. But we may need your help getting out of here. You will receive it. Good. It seems you think this companion can do almost anything. I don't know the limits of his capabilities. Can he cure Commissioner Miss Hedford? I don't know. It's worth a try. There's nothing we can do. You said you can communicate with him? To a certain extent. It's not verbal, but my messages usually get through. Try it now. See if he can do anything. Cochrane nodded and stepped aside, followed by Kirk and McCoy. How do you do it? Kirk asked. I'm just clearing my mind. Then he comes. Better stand back. Cochrane closed his eyes. Time passed, and Kirk heard the companion's melodic hum. It appeared beside Cochrane, shimmering with a dozen beautiful colors, in time with the gentle chimes. It moved closer to Cochrane, gathering around him as if embracing him. The lights played across Cochrane's face. What do you think about this, Bones? Kirk asked softly. Almost a kind of symbiosis, a kind of connection. I think so too. It doesn't quite resemble the relationship of a pet owner talking to an animal that's become attached to them. Do you think? No, it doesn't look like it. It's more than affection. I agree. Much more. Perhaps love. The companion was now moving away from Cochrane, who was slowly returning to normal. The companion disappeared, and Cochrane shook his head and looked around, as if trying to get his bearings. His eyes settled on Kirk. Are you okay? Kirk asked. Oh, yes. But it always somehow wears me out. But I'm fine. So? Cochrane shook his head again. The companion can do nothing to help Miss Hedford. It seems to be driven by some personal motive. I don't understand. But the answer is no. I'm sure of it. Then she will die. Listen, I'm so sorry. If I could help you, I would. But companion won't. Several hours passed before Spock returned from the shuttle. He carried with him a small but complex black device, obviously crudely crafted, as if a child had hastily assembled it. He carried it into the house. Your weapon, Captain. Wow, how does it work? As you already know, the companion is composed primarily of plasma, a highly ionized state of matter. Simply put, it's composed primarily of electricity. I propose, in essence, short-circuiting it. Place this device near the companion, flip this switch, and we'll intercept every electrical impulse this creature produces, I'm certain of it. Cochrane looked at the device with a miserable expression. Kirk asked, "What's bothering you, Cochrane?" "My companion saved my life. He took care of me for 150 years. We were close. It's hard to explain. I think I even became attached to him in my own way. But at the same time, he kept you here as a prisoner. I don't want him to be killed." Spock said, "We can just make him helpless." "But you," Cochrane said insistently, "you might kill him. I can't stand it, Kirk." "We're leaving here, Cochrane. Make up your mind." "What kind of people are you?" asked Cochrane. "Does gratitude mean nothing to you?" "I have a woman dying here, Cochrane. I will do whatever it takes to save her life." Kirk stared at Cochrane, who slowly began to give in. "I think, from your point of view, you're right. We understand your feelings, Mr. Cochrane," McCoy said, "but it will have to be done." "Okay. Do you want me to call him?" "Please," Kirk begged. "Not here." McCoy remained with his patient. Spock picked up his device, and he and Kirk exited the house. The companion and Cochrane were already approaching each other. Soft lights and soft music emanated from the creature. It seemed almost to purr. "Is it close enough?" Kirk whispered. "I think so," Spock replied. "And there is some risk. I do not know the limits of this creature's capabilities. Just as it doesn't know ours. Come on, Spock." Spock pressed the button. The companion's flickering intensified sharply, as did the buzzing, alarmed and intense. The pastel colors gave way to somber blues and greens, and the chimes gave way to a discordant tinkling. Cochrane, only a few feet away, clutched his head and staggered, then fell. A ghostly, ever-changing column of plasma crashed down on the house. Kirk and Spock rushed inside, but even there it was dangerous. The rooms were filled with a whirling, roaring sound. At the same time, Kirk felt a terrible pressure on his entire body. He was losing his breath. He tried to strike the vortex, but there was nothing to strike. He saw Spock next to him drop the device and struggle to breathe. "Stop it! Stop it!" McCoy's voice shouted from afar. "He's killing them!" Cochrane entered and, instantly understanding what was happening, entered a communal state. The companion's colors faded to pastel, and the being vanished. Kirk and Spock both fell to their knees, gasping for air. McCoy knelt beside them. Cochrane exited again. "Are you okay?" McCoy asked. "Can you breathe?" Kirk nodded. "It's all right, Bones." He struggled to his feet, followed by Spock, who seemed to be quickly recovering his strength. "Cochrane took him away from us. I don't know if he did a good thing or a bad thing." "What are you talking about?" McCoy asked sharply. "How can you fight such a creature? I have a ship somewhere out there, responsible for 4 human lives here, and one of them is dying." "It's not your fault." "I'm in command, Bones, so it's my fault. And here's the thing. I can't destroy him. I can't make him let us go." A moment later, McCoy said, "You've been a soldier so often that you've perhaps forgotten that you were also trained to be a diplomat. Why not use the carrot instead of the stick?" "But what can I offer?" Perhaps it's worth a try." "Spock!" "Yes, Captain?" "The universal translator is on the shuttle. We can try. We'll talk to the creature." The translator is intended for contacts with more compatible life forms. Adapt it. Change it. The worst thing about immortality is boredom. Tuning the translator will help you combat it. It's possible. If I could expand the reception range. Proceed, Mr. Spock. Bring it here and get to work. The translator was a small but sophisticated device. Cochrane's eyes followed Spock's work with it. "How does this device work?" he asked. "There are certain universal ideas and concepts common to all intelligent life," Kirk explained. This device instantly compares the frequency of brain patterns, selects those it recognizes, and supplies the necessary grammar and words. Do you mean what this box says? Yes, with a voice or something like that. Or whatever the being on the other end of the line uses. It's not perfect, of course, but it usually works well enough. Mr. Spock, are you ready? Practically yes, Captain. Mr. Cochrane, please call the companion. Cochrane left the house, and Kirk and Spock followed him again with the translator. Once again, the sound of the companion preceded his appearance, and then he appeared, misty and mysterious. Spock touched the translator and nodded to Kirk. Companion, we want to talk to you. There was a change in tone. The companion pulled away from Cochrane. Then a voice came from the translator. It was soft, gentle, and unmistakably feminine. How can we communicate? My thoughts. You hear them. It's interesting. A woman, Spock, Kirk said. There's no doubt about it. It's strange. The emergence of gender could change the whole situation. Dr. McCoy and I have suspected this for a long time. Then this is not the zookeeper? No, Mr. Spock. Dear companion, it is not right to keep us here against our will. A man needs the company of his own kind, or he may cease to exist, said a soft voice. He made me feel that. One of us is about to cease to exist. It's a woman, and she needs to be taken to a place where we can take care of her. Man needs others like himself, but of a different kind. That's why you're here. Man must continue. Captain, there's a certain dispassionate logic to that, Spock said. Pure pragmatism. From those words, I would conclude she'll never understand our point of view. Perhaps, companion, try to understand. It is in the nature of our species to be free, while it is in your nature to remain here. We will cease to exist in captivity. Your bodies have ceased their strange destruction. You will continue indefinitely. You will have food. Nothing will threaten you. You will continue, which means man will continue too. This is necessary. Captain, Spock said, this is a wonderful opportunity to expand our knowledge. Ask her about the nature of her origin. Mr. Spock, this is not a classroom. I'm trying to get us out of here. An opportunity like this will likely never present itself again. She could tell us so much. Mr. Spock, be silent. Companion, it is clear you do not understand us. That is because you are not a being of our species. Believe me, we are not lying. What you offer us is not continuation. It is non-existence. We will cease to exist. Even man will cease to exist. Your impulses are illogical. Communication is useless. Man must exist. Therefore, you will exist too. It is necessary. The voice fell silent. The companion slowly began to turn pale and finally disappeared completely. Kirk slumped and returned to the house, followed by Spock. Cochrane followed them in. Captain, why did you make your translator with a female voice box? We didn't do that, Kirk said. But I heard. Masculine and feminine principles are the universal foundation of everything in the cosmos, Cochrane. And the companion is undoubtedly a woman. I don't understand. Don't you understand? McCoy asked. It's clear as day. Cochrane, you're not just a pet. You're not a caged animal. You're a lover. Me, what? Isn't it obvious? Kirk asked. Everything she does for you. She provides you with everything, feeds you, shelters you, clothes you, And finally, she brings you companions when you're lonely. Her attitude when she approaches you is quite different from her interactions with us, Spock added. It manifests itself in everything. While I do not fully understand her feelings, they are clearly there. The companion loves you. Cochrane stared at them. This is funny! Not at all, Kirk said. We've seen situations like this. But after 150 years... What happens when you communicate with her? Spock asked. Well, it's like she merges with my consciousness. Of course, there's nothing shocking about it. Simply a symbolic union of two consciousnesses. This is outrageous! Do you understand what you're saying? You can't... But all these years, to let something so alien into your consciousness, your feelings... Cochrane suddenly became furious. She tricked me. She's some kind of emotional vampire. She was inside me. It didn't hurt you, did it? Kirk asked. Damaged? What does that have to do with it? You can be married to the woman you love for 50 years, and still, deep down, you maintain sacred places. But this creature fed on me. An interesting approach, Spock said. Typical of your time, I would say, when humanity had less contact with other life forms than it does now. And you sit here calmly, analyzing such nastiness, Cochrane exploded. What kind of people are you? There's nothing nasty about it, Cochrane, McCoy said. It's just another life form. You get used to these things. You make me sick. You're no better than her. I do not understand your highly emotional reaction, Spock said. Your association with the companion over the course of 150 years has been emotionally satisfying, practical, and utterly harmless. It may even have been quite beneficial. Cochrane glared at him. So this is what future humans look like. People who have no concept of decency or morality. Well, I may be 150 years behind the times, but I'm not going to be fodder for something inhuman. Horrible, he said, turning on his heel, panting, and walking out. A very narrow view, Spock said. Doctor? Came Nancy Hadford's weak voice. Doctor! McCoy hurried toward her, followed by Kirk. I'm here, Miss Hadford. She managed a weak, bitter smile. I heard everything. They love him, but he rejects it. Get some rest, McCoy said. No, I don't want to die. I did my job well, Doctor, but I was never loved. What kind of life is this? When no one loved you, never, and now I'm dying. And he's running from love. She fell silent, gasping for air. McCoy's eyes darkened. Captain, Spock called from the doorway. Look here. Outside was the companion again, looking the same as before, but Cochrane kept him at arm's length, openly controlling himself, maintaining an icy coldness in their relationship. You understand, he said. I don't want to have anything to do with you. The companion approached, ringing the bell questioningly and insistently. Cochrane backed away. I said, get out. You'll never come near me again without fooling me. Get out. Leave me alone, from now on and forever. Shaking, sweating, and pale-faced, Cochrane returned to the house. Kirk turned to McCoy. Nancy lay motionless. Bones, is she dead? No, but she's dying. Her breathing is very irregular. Her blood pressure is dropping. She'll die in about 10 minutes. And Did you do all you could, Bones? Do you feel sorry for her, Kirk? Asked Cochrane, still simmering with icy fury. Do you feel anything? Calm down, because this is the only way for any of us to get out of here. by dying. A faint hope of rescue suddenly flashed through Kirk's mind. He picked up the translator and went outside. His companion was still there. "Companion, do you love man?" "I don't understand," the female voice from the translator replied. "Is he important to you? More important than everything else? As if he were a part of you?" "He is a part of me. He must continue." "But he won't exist. He will cease to exist. By your feelings for him, you condemn him to an existence he finds unbearable." "He doesn't age. He will live here forever."
"You speak of his body," Kirk said. "I speak of his soul. Companion, there lies a dying female of our kind in this house. She will have no continuation. The same will happen to the human if you do not release him."
"I don't understand." "Our species can only exist if it has obstacles to overcome. You've removed all the obstacles. Without them, which give us strength, we weaken and die. You treat this man simply as a toy. You're playing with him." "You're mistaken," said the translator. "Man is the center of everything. I care about him." "But you can't truly love him." "You have no concept of love, of the complete union of two people. You are the companion, he is a person. You are two different entities, and you will never unite. You will never know love. You can hold him forever, but you will always be separated from each other." There was a long pause. Then the companion said, "If I were a human, would there be love?" The creature then disappeared from view. Kirk returned to the house, nearly colliding with McCoy, who was standing behind him. "What did you hope to achieve by this?" the surgeon asked. "Convince her of the futility of this? Love often expresses itself through self-sacrifice. If what she feels is love, perhaps she'll let him go." "But it's not human, Captain," Spock said. "You can't expect it to behave like a human." "I can try." "It won't help," Cochrane insisted. "I know." A voice came from the bed. "Zephram Cochrane." It was Nancy's voice, clear, strong, but somehow strange. They all turned around. Nancy Hadford stood there, but completely transformed, radiant, soft, looking at Cochrane. A rosy flush played across her cheeks. McCoy lifted his tricorder and stared at it, thunderstruck, but Kirk didn't need to explain what he saw. The Nancy Hadford who had died was now perfectly healthy. "Zephram Cochrane," she said. "I understand." It's her," Cochrane said. "Don't you understand? It's the companion." "Yes," Nancy said. "We are here now. Those you knew as the commissioner and the companion. We are both here." Spock said, "Companion, you do not have the power to give life." "No, only the creator of all that exists can do this." But Commissioner Hadford was dying. That part of us was too weak to continue. In a moment, there would have been no continuation. Now we are together. What you called love is available to us when we are together. It fills a huge need. We now have what we didn't have before. "You mean you're both in the same body now?" Kirk asked. "We are one. Such hunger, such desire," she said, moving toward Cochrane, who took a step back. "Poor Zephram Cochrane. We frighten you. I have never frightened you before." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Loneliness. This loneliness. We know how bitter it is. Zephram Cochrane, how can you bear it?" "How do you know what loneliness is?" Cochrane asked. "To be a creature of your kind is to know pain." She extended her hand. "Let me touch you, Zephram Cochrane." His hand slowly reached out, and they touched. Kirk turned his head and said quietly, "Spock, check the shuttle. engines, communication system, and so on. "We read you, Captain," Nancy said. "That's not necessary. Your ship is functioning as before, as are your communication systems." "Will you let us fly away?" Cochrane asked. "We will do nothing to stop you. Captain, you said I would never know love because I was not human. Now I am human, fully human, and nothing more. I will know the passing of days. I will know death. But to touch a man's hand, there is nothing more important. This is happiness, Zephram Cochrane. When is the sun warmer, the air sweeter, and the sounds of these places like gentle streams, currents in the air?" "You are very beautiful," Cochrane said quietly. "One part of me understands it, the other doesn't. But I'm pleased. I could explain many things to you. It would open your eyes." He was excited. "Thousands of worlds, thousands of races. I will show you everything as soon as I know it all myself. Perhaps I will be able to thank you for everything you have done for me." A sadness appeared in Nancy's eyes. "I can't go with you, Zephram Cochrane." Cochrane froze. "No, you can. You must. My life can only happen here. If I leave this place for more than a few days, I cease to exist. I must return here, just as you must absorb matter to sustain your life." "But you have the power. You can—" "I've become almost like you. The changing of the days will affect me. But leaving here forever means ceasing to exist." "Are you saying that you would give everything to become human?" "There is nothing more important than your touch." "But you will grow old, like all people. Eventually, you will die." "The joy of this hour is enough for me. I am glad." "I can't fly away and leave you here," Cochrane said. "You saved my life. You cared for me and loved me. I never understood it before, but I do now." "You must be free, Zephram Cochrane." Kirk said softly, "The Galileo is expecting you, Mr. Cochrane. But if I take her away from here, she will die. If I leave here, she, the human being, will die of loneliness. And that's not all. I love her. Is that surprising?" "For a human being, no," Spock said. "After all, you are incredibly irrational." Cochrane hugged the new Nancy Hedford. "I can't leave her here. And this isn't a bad place. I've gotten used to it." "Consider it, Mr. Cochrane," Kirk said. "There's a whole galaxy out there ready to celebrate you. It's enough for me that she loves me." "But you will grow old, both of you," Spock said. "There will be no more immortality. You will grow old here and eventually die. It happens to every man and every woman, but after being together for a long time, it seems like one of the most rewarding things in human life. As long as you're together." "Are you sure?" Kirk asked. "There's plenty of water here. The climate is good for growing plants. I might even try to grow a fig tree. Every man has a right to that, don't you think?" He paused, then said firmly, "I'm not doing this out of gratitude, Captain. Now that I see her, can touch her, I know I love her. We have many years ahead of us, and they will be happy years. Mr. Cochrane, you may be right, you may not. But I wish you all the best. Mr. Spock, Bones, let's go." When they turned, Cochrane said, "Captain." "Yes?" "Don't tell them anything about Cochrane. Let everything be as it was." Kirk smiled. "Not a word, Mr. Cochrane." As they were already climbing into the apparatus, Spock said, I have an interesting question, Captain. Have you blessed the act of polygamy? After all, the companion and Commissioner Hedford are now one body? Now you're being narrow-minded, Mr. Spock, McCoy said. Polygamy isn't illegal everywhere. Besides, Nancy Hadford was practically dead. Only the companion is keeping her alive. If she leaves Nancy, she won't live 10 minutes. In fact, I intend to file a death report for her as soon as we get to the Enterprise. Besides, Kirk chimed in, love is the one thing both Nancy and the companion ever craved. Now they have it. Yes, but not forever, McCoy said. Only life. Yes, but that's enough, Bones. For people. That's an inappropriate remark, Jim. When Spock's eyebrows rose, McCoy added, It is true, however. Kirk smiled and picked up the communicator. Kirk, calling Enterprise. The communicator responded weakly, Captain, it's Scotty. Are you okay? Absolutely. Can you locate us? We're doing the calculations. Done. Very well. I will continue the transmission. Take standard orbit upon arrival. We will transfer to the shuttle. But what happened, Captain? It's nothing special, after all, Kirk said. It's just the oldest story in the world happening.